The sky was gray with drizzling rain falling. Lin Dong walked slowly out of the medical hall, holding a medical diagnosis report. He stood on the steps, lifted his head, and let the rain beat against his cheeks. How can I tell away? Should I ask her, young as she is, to stay with a useless person like me? A useless person who is about to die from a disease that rots the whole body. The more Lin Dong thought, the heavier his steps became. In the hospital parking lot, a super luxury RV, the Gongyang 5000, stood quietly. It was waiting for its master, Lin Dong. He was not far from the vehicle now. As soon as they saw the young master coming, two men in suits and sunglasses immediately got out of the car. One of them held a shadowless electric umbrella, while the other kept looking around. When they reached Lin Dong, they stood on either side. The man holding the umbrella said in a low voice, "Young master, let's go back. The master is waiting at home." Lin Dong looked up at the sky. He couldn't say a word. He nodded. "Brother Su, Lao Yu, let's go directly to my dad's office." Then he walked quickly toward the car in the parking lot. Lao Yu followed closely, holding the shadowless electric umbrella, calling out, "Young master, slow down. Wait for me, umbrella." Lin Dong didn't look back, but slowed down. Lao Yu quickly caught up. He raised the electric umbrella over Lin Dong's head. The bodyguard called Brother Su hurried to the car, first took out a remote control and opened the middle door. Then he stood respectfully in the rain facing the young master. Lin Dong walked to the car, bent down, and got in. The door closed slowly. Brother Su went around to the driver's seat. Lao Yu also got in. The interior was completely divided into two compartments. The front compartment was for the driver and bodyguards. In the middle was an armored sealed partition. Behind the partition was Lin Dong's passenger compartment. The intercom carried Lin Dong's voice. "Lao Yu, go to my dad's office. First give him a call." "Yes, young master." "He'll contact the master right away." Lao Yu immediately connected to Master Lin's office intercom. "Master." "It's Lao Yu. The young master wants to go to your office now. Is that okay?" Lao Yu asked nervously. "Then come." "Oh." "Lao Yu, what did the doctor say about Xiao Dong's condition?" Master Lin's tone was calm. Lao Yu instinctively glanced back at the pitch-black partition behind him, looking embarrassed. "Master, the young master didn't tell us. We don't really know yet. I think you'd better ask him yourself later." The Gongyang 5000 started. Four corner lights flashed in arc-shaped glows. This was a magnetic levitation, high-altitude power vehicle. It could travel at the speed of a Boeing 777 to a maximum distance of no less than 1500 kilometers. After arriving, it only needed a brief 30-minute power recharge. Then it could fly another 1000 kilometers. Lin Dong's father's office was in the Far East City High-Tech Park, about 30 minutes from the city center hospital. Master Lin was sitting in his bright and spacious office. His floating desk and intelligent electric seat were all products of his own group. He was watching a segment transmitted from the RD department. The latest product, a liquid biochemical mechanical human combination system. Soon the Gongyang 5000 landed steadily in an open courtyard surrounded by fences. Then the front door opened and Brother Su and Lao Yu got out separately to wait for Lin Dong at the middle door. The door opened and Lin Dong got out slowly, weakly, without energy. He looked at the empty surroundings and leaned lazily against the car. "Lao Yu, did you contact my dad?" Lin Dong asked. "Yes, young master. The master is waiting for you in his office." Lao Yu took out a remote control intercom, call 201. Soon an AI hover seat system slowly approached. It stopped in front of Lin Dong. On the top of the seat's backrest was a small display showing a girl's face. "Hello, I'm Shuttle 201. Please open your eyes and keep still." After she spoke, a small flashlight-like probe at the bottom of the display adjusted its angle slightly. Lin Dong opened his eyes wide as instructed. The probe swept across his gaze in an instant. The display screen immediately showed a smiling beauty. "Huh? Welcome, young master. Please sit on the chair. Please fasten the armrest and buckle the seatbelt. I will take you to Master Lin's office. The office is in room 2551. Lin Dong's face was expressionless. He fastened the seatbelt manually as required. Then he leaned his head back on the headrest. At that moment, the display rotated backward. It revealed a soft back cushion. Then from the sides of the cushion, two black semi-arc masks extended toward the center and connected in the middle of Lin Dong's face. "Young master, we are now starting the hoverlift system. You may feel a bit uncomfortable initially, but don't worry, please relax and focus your attention." Lin Dong said impatiently. "Command 201, disable voice system." "As you wish, young master." The hover seat moved to a pipe-shaped transport entrance on the left side of the building. It entered the transport capsule. Lao Yu and Brother Su watched this scene, then turned and walked toward the hall entrance. For safety reasons, in the facility plan, Master Lin's office was set in a suspended pressure layer room on the 255th floor. To reach this altitude, and the suspended pressure layer 1 had to use the suspension transport pipeline. This was also the safest measure against external attacks. Entering Master Lin's office, Lin Dong walked up to him and placed the medical report on his father's desk. "Dad, this is the result." Master Lin was still completely focused on the big screen and did not answer him. Lin Dong leaned toward the pneumatic sofa, tilted his head back, and stared at the ceiling. In his mind, he recalled scenes of his loving past with Wei. Lin Yuhai slowly turned around, picked up the report from the coffee table, and gave it a casual glance. The electronic version was already sent to me by the hospital. RJ ischemic necrotizing disease terminal stage. Right. Lin Dong didn't answer directly. He raised both hands to cover his face. Tears flowed through the gaps between his fingers. He nodded hard. Then he began to sob uncontrollably, louder and louder. For a young man of only 25, contracting such an incurable disease was truly heartbreaking. Lin Yuhai stood up, walked to his side, and handed him a handkerchief. Don't cry. You shouldn't be so weak. His tone was firm, but not reproachful. Lin Dong took the handkerchief, wiped his face, and straightened up. Dad, what should I do now? What about Wei? My mind is in a complete mess. Lin Yuhai said gently, your father has already prepared for your situation. This disease is indeed incurable within our current medical scope. But we can replace parts of your limbs and connect them to a biochemical mechanical system. In this way, your brain, your consciousness, yourself will all still exist. These are the three essentials of human existence. It means you won't really die. You've just changed your way of survival and the value of your physical form. Lin Yuhai pointed at the big screen. Look here. This is the system I carefully prepared for you. Our Lin family has seen this disease appear every few generations. It's a jump-type genetic disorder, so I knew this would happen to you. I started researching this system when you were 18, and it's ready by the time you're 25. Lin Dong turned to look at the big screen, that biochemical system. In the middle was a circular core control room surrounded by intelligent mechanical biological arms and tentacles. Lin Dong smiled bitterly. Put me in here. Will I live forever? Lin Yuhai nodded. Theoretically, you will be immortal. The system contains everything needed to break down biochemical functions. So you will only feel the sensation of daily meals, but that's just your brain's reaction. Lin Dong nodded. If I don't do this, how long can I live? Lin Yuhai lowered his head and said in a low voice, probably no more than 2 months. That's the doctor's optimistic estimate. Lin Dong asked again, what about Wei? Lin Yuhai replied, after the system is complete, I need to send you to the Alpha Star region. My old friend Grandmaster Tony will receive you there. You will realize your value there. You will be the Dragon Knight King there. As for Wei, I will implant a failure-type memory in her. She will be very painful at first, but soon she will forget you and live happily on this earth. And rest assured, I will give her unlimited money and resources. They'll set up a company for her. Everything has been arranged long ago, son. Lin Dong nodded painfully. Dad, will I still be able to see you? Lin Yuhai smiled slightly. Son, after you go through with this, you'll be immortal. As for me, I'm already in my twilight years. Before I pass away, I might choose the same path as you. Then we can meet again in the Alpha Star region. Swish. A flash of light. Wang Yu arrived at the Alpha Star region. He was assigned to the Mechanized Defense Forces Engineering Command Division. It was Wang Yu's first time here. Everything felt strange and fascinating. But one thing, he still missed his hometown and the friends there. Report. First Lieutenant Wang Yu, Mechanical Engineering Division, reporting for duty. Wang Yu stood outside the Alpha Command Center facing the video intercom system. He pressed the report button. Urgent announcement. Urgent announcement. The Alpha Star is under alien invasion. Requesting reinforcements. Repeat, urgent announcement. Urgent announcement. The Alpha Galaxy is under alien invasion. Requesting reinforcements. Wang Yu from Earth, Alpha B Galaxy, of the human race, commander of the 3rd Marine Squad. Rank human, level 3, 2nd Lieutenant. As the central control robot Panda kept issuing commands through the loudspeaker, Wang Yu sprinted toward the operations room. Entering the room at the wide electronic war conference table, Brigadier General Rommel and Major Catherine were intensely analyzing intelligence. Sir, 3rd Squad of the Alpha Galaxy, Captain Wang Yu reporting. Requesting mission assignment. Brigadier General Rommel looked at Wang Yu. Hello, young man. The situation in the Alpha Galaxy doesn't look good. Catherine, you brief him. Major Catherine, a foreign female, medical level 6 Captain, 2nd Lieutenant Wang Yu. We have just received intelligence that a very powerful force suddenly attacked Dr. Ekman's laboratory No. 3 located in the Alpha Galaxy, and it is spreading there. So I hope you can lead your squad, accompany our Firebat team to rush to the rescue and eliminate the invaders. Wang Yu stood at attention and replied, orders received. Ma'am, I will assemble my squad immediately. Catherine raised her hand. No need, Commander. This time we have the newly developed high-energy molecular replicator. It can quickly replicate your squad to the Alpha Galaxy. All you have to do is board the ship. Commander. Brigadier General Rommel walked up to Wang Yu. Commander, the burden on your shoulders is not light. The situation there is complex, and currently the large-scale AI system Annie is unreachable. To better transmit and repair Annie, I have assigned Vina as your technical officer to accompany you. As he spoke, outside the electronic glass door of the operations room stood a young female officer. Panda immediately prompted Brigadier General Rommel. Technical Officer Vina, Warrant Officer requests an audience. Rommel immediately replied, let her in. We've been waiting for her. The electronic door then opened. The beautiful blonde technical officer dressed in a silver-white digital uniform Vina walked gracefully to them. She snapped to attention General Rommel. 7th Technical Unit Level 3 Warrant Officer Vina. Awaiting your orders, sir. Rommel nodded. Catherine, continue. Catherine walked up to Vina. Hello, Technical Officer. I'm Level 6 Medical Theater Commander Catherine. You are to follow our young Commander Wang Yu to the Alpha Galaxy to rescue Laboratory No. 3. You are responsible for implementing the temporary remote base plan and command all SCVs to provide maximum logistical and technical support for Wang Yu. Is the order clear? Vina stood at attention. Clear, Commander. Catherine glanced at General Rommel. The general just nodded, turned, and looked at the multidimensional star battlefield display in front of him. Wang Yu and Vina quickly walked to the shuttle. Wang Yu suddenly remembered something and turned his head. Warrant Officer Vina. I heard you are quite capable in the technical unit. But now I am the commander. Do your duty. He winked at Vina. Vina made a ceremonial salute, swiping her 2 fingers across her temple. Sure, don't worry, Commander. As long as you don't wet your pants from fear. Wang Yu was about to retort when the shuttle's red alert light started flashing. The Type 7 shuttle is the largest transport currently developed by the human race. Wang Yu and Vina sat down on the high-grade seats in the crew cabin. The loudspeaker announced, everyone please fasten your seatbelts. We are about to depart. Before the words faded, Wang Yu felt the shaking. He looked out the porthole and saw the shuttle already leaving the base. Wang Yu turned to Vina. Technical Officer, my plan is this. First I will get off the plane and then choose your research location. Then you must immediately start the configuration research and transmission of the technical factory and base. We have no time to waste. Understood. Vina just smiled. Good, Commander. Don't say I'm not serious. I just want to remind you that your digital armor pants seem to be missing something. Wang Yu looked down. Oh. He almost burrowed his face into the deck. His pants had not closed the electronic lock on the critical area. The whole thing was open for viewing. Wang Yu frowned, quickly dodged, and activated the closing system, then turned back and glared at Vina. You girls are such trouble. If it were all male members, we could go to the front line naked. Vina smiled sweetly, but I'm afraid that the aliens will all— The shuttle quickly swept over the sky of Alpha B. The loudspeaker announced, everyone, we have arrived above the Alpha B galaxy. Please prepare to disembark, officers. Difficulty code 003. Wang Yu asked Vina, what exactly is difficulty code 00? Vina looked helpless. Why is such a simple question so complicated for you Marine soldiers? Do you really rely on medical needles to increase your intelligence? The shuttle prompts us to prepare for emergency level 3 defense based on the terrain. The aircraft landed on Alpha B. Wang Yu was the first to step out of the cabin holding a 25mm single-barrel machine gun. He wore a full tactical helmet. Behind him came Vina. The shuttle then turned and flew away. Wang Yu scanned the area ahead. In his helmet display, red prompts continuously showed unusual activity in Zone 1, unusual activity in Zone 2. Wang Yu said through the intercom, we go to Zone 3. You immediately set up the mechanical transmission center and base. Vina anxiously replied, no, soldier. Don't you know we need to find a type crystal mine first? Without type crystal drive, my replication system cannot start. At this time, strong storms were sweeping across the entire galaxy, mixed with the howling of some mysterious— Wang Yu and Vina walked with Vina, asking, here, anything, Commander? Wang Yu, struggling forward, said, the howls of mysterious creatures. The two arrived at a place with a moderately rich type crystal deposit. Wang Yu turned back and pointed, is this— Vina nodded, enough for your mission. Then Vina opened the base communicator. Base. This is the mobile unit. We have successfully discovered a type crystal mine. Please transmit the SCV to me as soon as possible. Base replied, first SCV transmission in 30 seconds. After a while, Wang Yu saw a flash of lightning and fire not far in front of Vina, and an SCV stood before them. Before Wang Yu could ask, Vina immediately ordered, activate the mobile base immediately. Then the two stood back-to-back, guns raised, rotating to achieve all-round perimeter defense. After 30 seconds, SCV responded in Vina's earpiece, report, sir. SCV continues. Vina immediately began neural control of the branch base. A row of research lights in front of the base gate flashed in sequence. The newly transmitted SCV had already started busy mining. At this time, the storm still raged like a wild horse let loose across the planet. Then a genetically replicated second SCV appeared. It also headed straight for the crystal mine according to program, mining together with the previous one. After 7 SCVs were in place, Vina ordered one SCV to start building the Marine Infantry Barracks transmission research system next to the crystal mine. 2 Marines were researched in succession. The third just started. Vina ordered the SCV to start erecting a second Marine transmission mechanism. Wang Yu looked at his watch and anxiously said, can you speed it up? I'm afraid we're running out of time. At the same time, Vina was also supplementing the number of SCVs in the command system to increase mining output. Hearing Wang Yu's words, she turned her head and shouted at Wang Yu angrily, do you think what you think is right? Can't you see I'm going crazy? I'm doubling your marine production first, otherwise your firepower won't be enough to deal with those unknown creatures. At that moment, Wang Yu finally saw a full squad of Marines assembled. Listen up, men. We need to get to Dr. Ekman's lab right now. Follow me, brothers. Let's go. Saying that, Wang Yu took the lead and rushed toward the nearby cave entrance with his team. Although the cave entrance was not far from the base along the way except for sandstorms, Wang Yu's squad encountered almost nothing. But just as they were about to reach the outside of the cave, many strange and grotesque creatures suddenly leaped up from the ground. These creatures were much larger than ordinary humans. They leaped and recklessly pounced on Wang Yu's squad. In an instant, 2 Marines were knocked down, blood streaming from their armor. Seeing this, Wang Yu shouted, "Ambush! Change formation to skirmish line. Open fire!" At the command, the Marines formed back-to-back tight formations, raised their 25mm AH machine guns, and swept the leaping creatures with heavy fire. Another Marine fell. His helium shell armor instantly burst. A puff of white smoke, and the Marine vanished without a trace. More unknown creatures closed in. Several Marines fell one after another, white smoke rising repeatedly. Wang Yu gripped his machine gun, twisting his body, firing in almost every direction. Many creatures were blown to pieces by Wang Yu's gunfire. Blood splattered everywhere. But when Wang Yu looked around at his teammates, few remained. His own level 3 mech suit was tattered. He was about to be overwhelmed by the creatures. At that moment, an orange-yellow flame swept across from behind him. Because their suits were fireproof, the group of alien creatures was engulfed by the flame. The figures that followed behind were all round as drums, their bodies plump and bulging. Wang Yu cast them a strange glance and asked, "What in the world are you?" He temporarily released the trigger of his weapon. "Greetings, Commander. I am from Firebat Squadron 3. Technical Officer Vina has dispatched us to reinforce you." The round creature spoke in a muffled, rumbling voice, appearing rather endearing. Wang Yu wasted no time, blocked the monsters ahead. "Charge!" The Firebat replied, "Affirmative, Commander." Then he waved behind him, "Come on, fellows. Leave it to us. Let's clean up this filth." With that, 3 or 4 more Firebats stepped forward, raising their flamethrowers fitted with mesh-like heat sinks, and unleashed a torrent of fire upon the leaping creatures ahead. Blazing crimson flames instantly encircled the horde of leaping creatures that had gathered. Under the scorching inferno, the creatures fell one after another. Soon they turned into charred black masses indistinguishable from the soil. The battle finally came to a temporary halt. Wang Yu shouted into the communicator, "Vina, dispatch SCVs to build bunkers in the outer perimeter of Sector 3. And leading the team into the cave laboratory. We need defense here." Shortly after, 4 SCVs appeared, their rear thrusters spewing fiery trails. They swiftly began constructing bunkers at the entrance of Sector 3. Wang Yu surveyed his team, split into 2 groups. First group follows me into the cave, the rest will hold the bunkers. Move out. Wang Yu led 4 Marines and 2 Firebats into the pitch-black cave. The cave was only the distant intermittent drip of water could be heard. The green light on Wang Yu's oxygen alarm lit up, so he removed his helmet. A damp draft mingled with a putrid odor immediately filled his nostrils. "What's that smell?" I questioned a dark-faced soldier beside him. Wang Yu sniffed carefully. "It smells like charred flesh. All units stay in formation. We're moving deeper." Walking at the front, Wang Yu illuminated the ground with the lights on his helmet. He saw incomplete remains of bodies scattered everywhere. A spine-chilling sensation crept over every team member. Suddenly a soldier shouted, "Look! On that stone!" Following the shout, Wang Yu looked up. At the top of the towering cave wall, a semicircular balloon-like creature drifted aimlessly, hovering and prowling. Without hesitation, Wang Yu ordered, "Open fire." He raised his machine gun and unleashed a burst of gleaming bullets at the creature. The creature let out a strange shriek. With a pop, it burst into a spray of blood in the air. A foul stench choked everyone. Wang Yu led the team further along the cave. Soon they reached the edge of a vertical shaft. Wang Yu peered down. It was bottomless, shrouded in darkness. He called into the communicator, "Vina, report your status." Vina's crisp voice replied, "Handsome, everything's done here. All clear. Over and out." Wang Yu responded helplessly, "Get over here, ASAP. I need technical support." "Over." Vina chuckled through the communicator. "Haha, I knew you little kid. Commander can't do without me. On my way." Flustered by the unbridled female technical officer, Wang Yu seemed at a loss. He turned and scanned the stone walls around him. The entire cave was a massive arched tunnel, its walls covered with jagged rocks. Yet some fresh marks were etched into the stone surface. Wang Yu ordered his men, "Adopt a loose formation. Switch to new steel guards." The Firebats immediately circled into a ring with the Marines standing inside. At that moment, from the bright cave entrance, 2 SCVs carried a beautiful female officer inside. Vina stopped the SCV. She jumped off immediately, removed her helmet, and approached Wang Yu. "Handsome. Am I on time?" Without looking at her, Wang Yu replied coldly, "Get to work, 8th Sis." As a blonde, blue-eyed foreigner, Vina naturally didn't quite grasp the meaning of 8th Sis. The SCVs had already set up the damaged elevator system. Without waiting for Wang Yu's command, Vina darted into the elevator car. "Let's go, handsome." Ready to see your folks down there. Wang Yu glared at her and yelled, "Get out. This isn't your job." He stepped forward to pull Vina out. Just then bits of dirt began to crack and fall from the stone walls, followed by crumbling rocks. Vina looked up and nervously urged Wang Yu, "Getting quick, or you'll be buried alive." Wang Yu glanced at the falling debris. With no other choice, he led the team into the elevator. The elevator slid rapidly down the shaft, surrounded by pitch-black rock walls. Vina carried a long-barreled 30mm sniper rifle on her back. She looked at Wang Yu. "What's wrong? Are you injured?" Wang Yu shook his head. "What were those things outside?" "I lost several men." Vina used an extractor to draw a sticky substance from Wang Yu's outer armor. Then she conducted a temporary test. On Vina's visor display, Wang Yu saw a series of experimental data. After a moment, Vina stopped the test, lifted her visor, and looked at Wang Yu with a mix of terror and confusion. "Insects. Leaping insects." She stared blankly at him. Wang Yu leaned in for a closer look. "They're different from what I've seen on Earth and other planets. These six-legged bugs. Can their cellular structure reassemble?" As they hesitated, the elevator reached the bottom in the center of a circular hall. Wang Yu leaped out first, his machine gun raised and ready. Vina and the other team members followed, jumping down one by one. Wang Yu surveyed the hall. It was a circular chamber with a stone ceiling. Several arched mechanical doors lined the lower walls, all tightly shut. Numbers were painted on the walls in thick cement strokes. Yellow safety lights flickered all around. Wang Yu whispered to his team, "Stay in formation." The team maintained their arrangement with fire bats on the outside and Marines inside. They formed a circle. Vina retrieved the underground base map from her helmet computer. Door No. 1 leads to the doctor's laboratory. Door No. 2 leads to the work area. No. 3 to the living quarters, and No. 4 to the main control room. Wang Yu waved his hand. "Well, enter the lab first and find the doctor. Then we'll know what happened." He moved quickly toward the door marked No. 1. The rest of the team followed, positioning themselves on both sides of the door. The fire bats in front aimed their nozzles at the door. Vina spotted a square scanner on the wall beside the door. She pressed her face to the scanner. With a beep, Door No. 1 hissed open, releasing a puff of white steam. From the corridor beyond, a group of bloody, staggering figures surged forward. Judging by the tattered remains of their clothing, these were former workers and researchers. Now their faces were twisted and grotesque. Their bodies were covered in foul-smelling slime, many misshapen, some even bearing 2 heads. Without hesitation, Wang Yu raised his machine gun and fired a burst at the monsters. But only 1 or 2. Vina shouted, "These are human mutations. Don't let them get close. Fire." She raised her shocks. She fired several shots at the leading mutants, who collapsed one after another. The fire bats at the door shoved Wang Yu and Vina aside. "Commander, leave this to us. Brothers, barbecue time. Let's show these filthy bastards some pain." The 2 fire bats stood side by side and opened fire on the mutants. As the flames from the flamethrowers hit the mutants, they erupted in intense fire. They writhed and struggled, trying to extinguish the flames. Wang Yu pulled the fire bats back, and the team surged forward, raising their machine guns and firing at the mutants. In an instant, hundreds of bullets tore into the mutants, tearing them apart. Some, showing fear, turned to they were struck by subsequent bullets, their bodies exploding into sprays of gore. Wang Yu continued leading the team forward, the stench of blood permeating the corridor. Beyond the corridor was a long hallway. Wang Yu observed the sides lined with automatic glass doors. He noticed bloody handprints smeared on many of them. This indicated that people had been alive here during the incident. The lights in the hallway flickered due to short circuits. They flickered on and off. As they advanced, Wang Yu felt a cold draft beside him. Glancing sideways, he saw a glass door slide open. Inside, a large, bloated, pale figure staggered toward him, wielding a black cleaver and grinning. Wang Yu calmly aimed and fired 2 shots at the figure. But the figure didn't fall immediately. Despite several bullet holes oozing blood, it continued stumbling forward without retreating. As it approached, the figure suddenly swung its cleaver and hurled it at a soldier's face. The distance was too close for the soldier to raise his weapon in time. The cleaver was about to strike. Wang Yu raised his machine gun to fire, but 2 sharp bangs rang out. The figure was hit in the head and collapsed to the ground. A soldier approached with his gun raised to inspect. Suddenly he shouted to Wang Yu, "Commander, come and see." Wang Yu approached and saw that it was a former laboratory researcher, now transformed into a grotesque, inhuman monster. He gestured toward the laboratory door, signaling, "Move." Below the door open. 2 Marines swiftly placed RG-18 explosives on the door. A thunderous explosion erupted. The outer door of the laboratory was blasted open. Wang Yu pulled down his helmet visor and ordered, "Spread out in formation, enter safely." He then slowly advanced into the lab with his rifle raised. Several Marines and 2 fire bats followed in a fan-shaped formation, with Vina close behind. The laboratory was in utter disarray, splattered with bloodstains everywhere. A few researchers in white uniforms lay in pools of blood. The control panel's display flickered with static. By then Dr. Ekman had vanished. On his desk, an electronic display played a video. Wang Yu walked over, picked it up, and pressed the start button. Greetings, my human friends. I am Dr. Ekman, researcher of human and divine fusion. Today I solemnly announce that I have invented a new species. It will be more intelligent and powerful than both humans and divines. I call them the Zerg. Those pitiful human workers, no matter how refined, can only become foolish mutants, never noble Zerg. I will lead my Zerg to annihilate every planet you occupy. Wail, my human friends. Weep, warriors. After watching Wang Yu called out, Vina, you should see this. Vina approached with her shock sniper rifle, asking, what is it, Commander? What have you discovered? Wang Yu silently handed her the display. Vina watched quietly. After finishing, she flung it down, scoffing, humph. That mad and evil Ekman. He has betrayed our pact and unleashed a dreadful prophecy. Wang Yu asked calmly, what prophecy could be so chilling? Vina shook her head. I'd rather not speak of it, Commander. Wang Yu then ordered his team, continue searching thoroughly for any other clues to take back. Turning to Vina, he said, Technical officer, I need you to restore our communication with headquarters as soon as possible. I must report to Brigadier General Rommel. Vina saluted silently and began her work. The 24th outpost of Human Alpha Star was located in the western region of the planet. It faced the Tollens River Valley. The outpost was primarily guarded by the 6th Infantry Company, supported by the 7th Technical Group. Behind it lay the newly established human base 13 on Alpha Star. The base housed 2 infantry replication centers and 2 Caitlin 20mm autocannon turrets, each manned by an infantry squad. The outpost was commanded by Lieutenant Simak, a level 5 human commander. As dusk approached, Simak idly gazed at the sky from the command post, yearning for a real battle. Veteran Roger, long due for retirement, insisted on serving at the outpost. Sitting across from Simak, he remarked, Commander, have you ever been to Lake Berna on Karen Star? I hear the water is as clear as a mirror, and the Elsa fighting fish there taste divine. Simak continued, staring at the stars outside the window. Yes, Roger. If I could go there, I'd bring my H3 electric net. I'd catch 1,000 fighting fish, skewer them, grill them over fire, and sprinkle them with salt and cumin. Paired with my Lorum red wine, that would be the life I long for. Roger's mouth watered. Commander, you're making my stomach growl. But here we are stuck with standard rations and tasteless wine. Outpost life is so dull. He took a large gulp from his cup. Simak suddenly turned. Roger, which squad is on night patrol at the northern checkpoint? Roger thought for a moment. It should be Malva's squad. I haven't seen them yet. Maybe they're too busy to contact us. The communicator is still under repair. That's a potential issue. Simak shook his head. I've sent 3 reports to headquarters requesting an upgrade to Outpost 24 security level. At least reinforce us with a Firebat squad. I hear they're formidable. Roger nodded, sliding his cup on the table. But there aren't many of them yet, so they're assigned to critical units. So it won't be our turn. Don't dwell on it, Commander. Simak chuckled. Roger, any news from headquarters? Any attractive female commanders? I'm tired of seeing the general's face. Roger laughed. If he heard that, his beard would fly to his forehead. Outpost 24 stood opposite the Tollens River Valley on Alpha Star, facing the deep and vast valley. The area was strictly off-limits due to reported Gamma 600 radiation sources capable of melting a heavy tank instantly. The outpost sat at the valley's exit, but years of silence had made its defense a low priority for command. As the two chatted idly, suddenly the gear's safety control system blared, alert. Unknown life forms detected in the valley. All units prepare for combat. Repeat, this is not a drill. Simak stared at Roger, then snapped to action. Order all units to defensive positions. Roger grabbed a machine gun and rushed out. Simak doubted there were real monsters in the valley, suspecting a gear's malfunction. Still unhurried, he held his wine cup and command scope, moving to the observation port to peer outside. As his view reached the valley's exit, a dark, writhing mass came into sight, clearly a swarm of creatures. But Alpha Star wasn't a sustainable habitat, so native life was nearly non-existent, unlike Wang Yes Alpha B Star. Seeing these unknown crawling entities, Simak grew alert. They began creeping toward his forward command post. Simak ordered over the communicator, First Squad, open fire for reconnaissance. Instantly, Bunker 4 ahead spat fiery tongues of bullets. A barrage of gunfire rained toward the valley exit. After transforming into the Zerg progenitor, Ekman commanded their transport ships, known as Overlords. He pressed toward other Alpha Star planets. The destruction of his lab on B Star shook him deeply. Thus, he led a massive force of Zerglings to launch a full-scale assault on the valley region. For this operation, Ekman mobilized all his hatcheries, rapidly assembling a vast Zergling army. The only type crystal mine in the valley which he had occupied was now nearly depleted. LC mineral mining only enhanced equipment and skills, not his great swarm dream, making this attack crucial. Behind Outpost 24 lay the town of Belkang, home to a massive type crystal mine, a target he had to seize. Ekman waved at his Zergling forces, and the first wave of at least 1,000 Zerglings prepared to charge. He had developed a new biological code, A3 adrenaline, to boost their attack speed and aggression, enhancing their tearing power. Unaware of all this, Simak didn't even know what Zerglings were. The 1,000 Zerglings split into 3 paths, the first charging the forward fort at the valley's exit. Only then did Simak realize he wasn't witnessing a valley wonder, but a swarm of unknown fast approach. Wang Yu had yet to report to headquarters, so the new Zerg species was virtually unknown beyond his team. Simak had no choice but to shout into the communicator. All units open fire. Hold them at the perimeter. Shoot, brothers. The valley's exit featured a concave curve flanked by 2 elevated ridges. Taking advantage of the flat terrain, Simak had built 2 machine gun bunkers on these ridges to create a crossfire. Indeed, both bunkers opened fire simultaneously. But the swarm's primal force overwhelmed all. The left bunker was instantly destroyed. The SCV repair unit couldn't keep up with the fast Zerglings' assault. The left ridge fell. Knowing they couldn't hold, Simak urgently called over the electronic screen. Base command, this is Alpha Star Outpost 24. We're under heavy attack. Under heavy attack. Request immediate reinforcements. Wang Yu approached the laboratory console, and Vina said with a smile, "Soldier, I fixed the console. You can now link up with headquarters. But be careful of electric shocks. Don't blame me." Wang Yu chuckled. "Are all you female tech officers so unscrupulous and glib?" He was clearly not one to back down. Subsequently, Wang Yu initiated a test communication. "Third squad calling headquarters, do you copy?" "Repeat, third squad calling headquarters, do you copy?" Wang Yu looked up at the large screen before him, growing slightly impatient. He frowned at Vina. "Tech officer, is this your sense of achievement?" Vina glanced at the console desk, pursed her lips, and slowly walked forward. "Soldier, did you think this console runs on air? How can it work if you don't connect the power?" As she spoke, she raised her hand and flipped the external power switch. Sure enough, the machine activated with a loud clang. Looking somewhat embarrassed, Wang Yu said, "Third squad calling headquarters, third squad calling headquarters, do you copy?" At that moment, the screen flickered and Brigadier General and Catherine appeared on the large display. "Hello, Commander, it seems your mission hasn't gone too badly." "Oh." Wang Yu raised his hand to adjust his helmet. "Not bad, Major. However, in the Alpha B star sector, large-scale mutations have appeared. We have confirmed that Dr. Ekman has created a new species which he has named the Zerg. It's a disgusting and terrifying race. Our squad has collected 3 live specimens and 3 prepared ones. But we're inside the underground laboratory in the cave. I estimate there are mutants everywhere above me. The squad requests further instructions and seeks extraction support. Marking Zone 3 is no longer suitable for human or Protoss habitation. Over." Brigadier General Rommel listened and said, "Good work, Commander. Congratulations on completing the lab destruction mission. Prepare to break out north of Zone 3. I will dispatch an air transport team to rendezvous with you. Also, you must lead your squad to Outpost 24 immediately. An emergency has occurred there." Wang Yu listened and replied, "Yes, General. But you can't just send me running without any supplies, can you? I'm facing a combination of mutants and Zerg. So I need an equipment upgrade system for my team, ammunition resupply, and additional squads dispatched." Brigadier General Rommel listened, then reached out and pressed the communicator beside him. "Please have Technical Director Marvy report to the Combat Command Center. Make it quick." Shortly after, a 4-wheeled cart stopped at the entrance of the operations room. "General, can you open the door?" Although it was inaudible inside the room, the shouting continued outside. After Panda authentication, the door slid open automatically. The cart arrived at the command console. A middle-aged man holding a steel wrench looked up at Brigadier General Rommel. "General Marvy reporting, Level 9 Engineer, head of the Alpha Galaxy Technical Directorate." Rommel turned to the screen and said, "Marvy, our young commander, needs your technical assistance. Do you have any surprises for all of us?" Marvy shrugged. "Surprises? That depends on how you look at it. For us, perhaps. But for the enemy, it would be their nightmare. I've just developed a human hormonal catalyst. Commander, it can easily turn your men into invincible giants in an instant. But it doesn't last long and is quite harmful to your body. Want to give it a try? Also, we'll give you an armor accelerator. It can boost your armor by 1 level. ITLL ensure not all your little foot soldiers get wiped out." Under the laboratory's big screen, Vina, hearing about the new tech mode, immediately stepped forward. "Marvy, hello. When will you ever learn to be truly humble? I think the enemy will be wiped out soon enough. Send me the data and system files immediately. We're about to depart." In a Level 1 Zerg nest in the Tollens Valley, Dr. Ekman had completely transformed into the Zerg progenitor, also known as the Brain Zerg. Though he no longer had human-like limbs, countless drones beneath his body provided him with mobility power. The Zerg progenitor used his highly developed neurons to control all Zerg bases. After inventing the Zergling stimulant, the progenitor developed an entirely new unit. He first genetically transformed 4 Zerglings, converting the data model of the Protoss deadly weapon Fury Cannon into a Zerg genetic data model. Thus, a new monstrosity was born. It was the size of 4 Zerglings. And a single Zergling was only half the size of a human. That meant this monster was equivalent to 2 humans combined in size. Consequently, the pressure on the Overlord increased significantly. The Zerg progenitor Ekman's formidable subordinate was a monster formed from 8 genetically mutated Zerglings. When the progenitor was still the real Dr. Ekman, he had deeply studied almost all species in the galaxy, and was particularly interested in a 6-clawed arthropod reptile from Earth. Following this model, he genetically modified this monster, defining it as a scorpion and naming it Akafa. Akafa served as the Zerg progenitor Ekman's assistant. As for the creature, composed of 4 Zerglings equipped with a nozzle similar to the Protoss Fury cannon, the progenitor named it Hydralisk, also called Spitter. Initially, the production cost of the Spitter, in terms of Type C crystals, was very limited. However, its attack speed remained at the Zergling composite stage, and its range was also far from ideal. It fell far short of the power of human long-range weapons. Therefore, the Zerg progenitor Ekman evolved an enhanced Hydralisk the Spitter by transforming data from the Protoss Dragoon's code. However, this required a certain amount of LC gas geysers to be upgraded in conjunction. The Zerg progenitor Ekman, carried by a swarm of drones, propelled his round body to a spot near the valley exit. Ekman's vision was exceptionally good, and due to genetic mutation, he possessed omnidirectional perception. He used his neurons to control the first wave of attacking Zerglings. During the assault on the left bunker, over 300 Zerglings frenziedly pounced on the machine gun bunker, spewing fire. They incessantly gnawed around the bunker. Machine gun fire sprayed from all sides of the bunker, along with twin flames from firebats. Instantly, the area around the bunker turned into a muddy pool of flesh. Although certain parts of the bunker were torn open by the Zerglings, they were quickly welded shut by reinforcing SCVs using laser cutters. The left flank attack was commanded by Scorpion 300. Ekman's neurons roared at him, at any cost take down the left machine gun bunker and annihilate them all. Following Ekman's orders, Scorpion 300, shielded by 100 Zerglings, quietly approached the bunker, opened its massive mouth, and spat a golden mist toward the front of the bunker. This was his first basic skill. Meanwhile, the Scorpion Akafa was learning a new energy technique called armor-piercing acid blood. Once he succeeded, Ekman believed he could upgrade all Scorpions with this skill. Then, facing the powerful human machine gun bunkers, they could eliminate them more effectively. A cloud of golden-yellow mist blew over. The 2 marine gunners inside the bunker instantly lost their vision. Only 2 firebats remained, spraying flames left and right. With the bunker's firepower sharply reduced, more and more Zerglings survived around it. The intensity of the assault grew stronger. Eventually, it exceeded the repair speed of the SCV support robots behind the bunker. Soon after, the bunker caught fire from the outside in. The fire caused the internal ammunition to overheat and ignite. Shortly after, the bunker flipped over from its base, exposing the 4 remaining infantrymen inside. Elman immediately howled from behind, "Kill them. Leave no one alive." Over 30 Zerglings pounced on a single marine. Though he raised his machine gun and swept in all directions, there were simply too many dogs. Soon, with a scream, he fell into a pool of blood. Another marine followed, screaming as he collapsed. The 2 firebats exchanged a glance, then turned to face the endless sea of Zerglings before them. They held hands and activated their flame detonators. A deafening boom rang out. At least 30 Zerglings were blown to pieces, their remains flying through the air. Witnessing all this from the command post, Simak was seized by immense terror. Were these monsters before him the same as those foolish, brainless mutants? No. Though hideous in form, they possessed high tactical discipline and coordination. Simak ordered into the communicator, "Abandon the frontline bunker group. Fall back to the second line of defense. Hold on, brothers. Reinforcements are coming." Hearing the order, the Marines and firebats in the right bunker immediately retreated from it. Then they sprinted toward the second line, firing backward as they ran. The front rows of Zerglings fell one after, but rows of Zerglings behind continued to surge forward. Scorpion 300 sent a message to Ekman, hoping the progenitor would dispatch new units to join the battle. If time dragged on and enemy reinforcements arrived, their situation might turn unfavorable. Ekman made a decisive choice. Through his neurons, he commanded the roughly 20 spitters that had just hatched from the second-tier nest advance. "My children, humanity will be utterly annihilated before your mighty spits." As soon as he finished the command, 20 Hydralisks, the spitters, charged towards Simak's second line of defense. Though their movements seemed sluggish, they possessed long-range lethal weapons, acid attacks. Moreover, as projectile-based attackers, they were infinitely more powerful than the clumsy Zerglings' melee assaults. Seeing his defensive line on the verge of collapse and his level 5 squad lacking armor preparation, Simak had no choice but to order all firebats to the front line. But he never expected this to be practically a suicide order. As per the established orders, Wang Ye's squad completed their upgrades and prepared for level 1 combat readiness, ready to depart the laboratory. However, as the first reconnaissance squad, 8 Marines and 2 firebats, just reached the main hall corridor, a chaotic horde of mutants flanked by a pack of small dogs with gleaming backs surged toward them. The reconnaissance leader Marine 1 immediately reported calling temporary base. Our squad is under heavy enemy blockade in the north corridor of the laboratory. Just then a flash of white light suddenly appeared before both of them. With a poof, Vina immediately covered her nose and glared at Wang Yu. Can't you warn me before you pass gas? It will be difficult for us to break through. There are many dogs outside and even more mutants. Vina walked to the console, activated the remote temporary base controller, and took command of the temporary base. Order the temporary base to upgrade to radar scanning mode. The process completed swiftly. Vina then issued the next command: initiate radar scans on corridors 1, 3, 0, and 4. Soon a ding-ding sound echoed. The temporary base responded. Laboratory command console, this is the temporary base. Scan complete. Large biological activity detected in corridors 1, 3, A, and 4. Corridor 3 appears relatively weaker. Level 3 mutants found in corridors 1 and 4. Corridor 3 only has level 1 and 2 mutants with a few other foreign creatures. Combat continues in corridor 2, but it may not hold much longer. Report complete. Vina turned off the communicator and looked at Wang Yu. Commander, I believe we should break out through corridor 3. Wang Yu glanced at Vina. How do you plan to break out? A reckless charge without fear. Even if we get out, can we still carry out the rescue? Vina raised an eyebrow. When did I ever say we'd charge foolishly? We must think of a plan. She turned back, deep in thought. Wang Yu looked at Vina, then at the console. Hey, tech officer. What do you think about a bunker assault tactic? Vina was momentarily stunned. Bunker assault? What nonsense. Can your mind ever think normally? Wang Yu ignored her. He directly ordered tech officer immediately mobilize 8 SCVs. They will advance toward corridor 3 with my assault squad. Hurry, or we'll run out of time. Just then a call came from the console. Laboratory, this is the reconnaissance squad. We can't hold on much longer. Please exit through another corridor. Ow. Before the words finished, the communicator erupted with anguished screams. Then came strange gibbering cries. Vina immediately commanded 1st Engineering Platoon assemble. All SCVs follow the assault squad closely. Don't fall behind. She then looked at Wang Yu. Commander, give the order. We're ready. Wang Yu gritted his teeth and spoke into the communicator. All Marines and Firebats, attention. Form into front and rear columns. The front column will be the assault force, the rear column, the main reinforcement force. 8 Marines and 4 Firebats in front, the rest in the rear. Head toward corridor 3. Orders were executed instantly. Wang Yu hoisted his machine gun and charged to the front of the squad. They quickly reached the entrance of corridor 3. Vina grabbed Wang Yu's arm and whispered, slow down, I need to perform a radar scan to assess the enemy situation. Wang Yu glanced at her and waved his hand back. The squad halted immediately. Vina then called the temporary base. She initiated a scanning reconnaissance of Sector 3. Soon 3 orange laser radar beams began sweeping both inside and outside corridor 3. A series of radar reflection sounds echoed. Under the laser scan, Wang Yu saw at least 2 groups of mutants scattered within the corridor, largely blocking the exit and parts of the passage. Additionally, at least 2 packs of small dogs were hopping about, appearing quite lively. As the final laser radar beams concluded, Wang Yu ordered Assault Group 1, cover the SCVs in constructing dual bunkers. Assault Group 2, prepare to enter the bunkers immediately. As the command was issued, 12 second-tier infantrymen of Group 1 swiftly advanced with their rifles raised. They formed a single-file line. Following closely, Vina ordered 4 SCVs to trail behind. The distance between the front and rear teams gradually widened. The dogs and mutants in the corridor instantly became alert upon spotting human figures in the distance. The mutants charged ahead recklessly. Closely behind were over 2 packs of small dogs. Facing the 12 machine guns of the blocking Marines, which spewed fiery serpents of bullets, the leading mutants howled as they were shredded into a pulp. Those behind continued to surge forward. However, due to the upgraded infantry's stimulant effects, the Marines' average firing rate increased from 5 to 7 rounds per burst. Bullets rained down like a storm upon the mutants and dogs, even level 2 mutants with their massive bodies. Facing this bullet rain, without any ranged weapons, they became mere sitting ducks. The trailing SCVs accelerated, quickly constructing bunkers on both sides of the corridor. Soon 2 bunkers were completed. The second squad promptly entered the bunkers in a 2-2 ratio. Wang Yu then ordered first squad fall back behind the bunkers and use them as cover to engage the enemy. Upon receiving the order, the Marines and Firebats swiftly moved into the bunkers. At that moment, another wave of dogs and mutants appeared at the corridor exit. As they approached, the bunker's gun ports erupted with fire. Simultaneously, the Firebats' high-pressure flamethrowers incinerated the first wave of mutants and dogs, attempting to overwhelm the bunker's range with sheer numbers. The following mutants, intimidated by the formidable bunker firepower and the rear Marines shooting, turned and fled toward the corridor exit. Vina seized the moment. SCVs, my boys, be brave and charge forward. Get as close as you can and build new bunkers quickly. The SCVs shouted back, come on, you ugly freaks. Uncle's big board loves you, and activated their propulsion seats, advancing forward. The Marines and Firebats also rose and followed. Just as the SCVs reached the halfway point to the corridor exit, a level 5 mutant emerged from the horde. Its body was covered in bumps and lumps with a disproportionately small head atop, its massive frame indicating low intelligence. The SCVs braved the mutants, swiping claws accelerating their bunker construction. The trailing Marines and Firebats engaged the pursuing enemies from afar, while delivering fierce blows to any dogs or mutants daring to approach the new bunkers. Soon the second line of bunkers was fully operational. Wang Yu was about to deploy the reserve squad, when suddenly chaotic shouts erupted from behind. Startled, Wang Yu turned to look, but due to poor angle and lighting, he could only make out vague shapes. He called out to Vina, "Laser radar. Laser radar." Vina immediately activated a third wave of laser radar scanning. Under the scan, Wang Yu finally saw the rear corridor packed with dense crowds of level 4 mutants and a pack of dogs. Wang Yu decisively ordered Firebats. "Show these rotting pieces of flesh the power of our Sea of Flame tactics. Go, fat boys." The Firebats simultaneously injected themselves with stimulants. With a roar of kill, 8 Firebats formed 2 ranks, 1 front and 1 back, charging toward the dark mass of enemies ahead. Mutants and dogs were low-intelligence species, especially the mutants who lacked any capacity for thought or understanding. They knew only to stuff humans and flesh into their mouths. Thus they charged forward, gibbering, seemingly oblivious to the Firebats. Just as they neared the rear of the corridor, 4 thick streams of fire burst from the flamethrowers. Blazing with fury, the flames directly engulfed the mutants. Instantly, a pungent stench of burnt flesh overwhelmed everyone, making their eyes water. The hordes of mutants, scorched by the intense heat, melted like a giant pot of onion mashed potatoes, slowly dissolving into foul-smelling liquid. Just as this was resolved, the communicator relayed another report from the front corridor. Wang Yu left 2 squads to guard the bunkers, assigned 4 SCVs to defend the rear bunkers, and then led his men toward the front corridor exit. The new bunkers there were already operational. Firebats and Marines from the first bunker squad quickly slipped into these 2 fresh bunkers. Both bunkers were brand new. The dogs behind the mutants trampled through the yellow liquid and charged straight to the bunkers, raising their claws to claw and bite at the fortifications. Seeing this, the SCVs split into groups of 4 and began welding and repairing the bunkers from behind. Wang Yu then waved his hand, "Advance." Behind the bunkers, the Marines and Firebats, at least 2 Marine squads and 1 Firebat squad, moved up. Upon arrival, they raised all their weapons and opened fire. Wang Yu stood at the front of the formation, furiously spraying bullets at the oncoming dogs. Packs of dogs fell one after another. After the last of the mutants and dogs were annihilated at the corridor exit, Wang Yu and Vina led the remaining soldiers out of the passage. They arrived at the main elevator entrance. Under Vina's control, the massive elevator doors opened, and the remaining troops all entered. Just as the elevator was about to ascend, Wang Yu pressed the pause button. He then pulled a small device from his backpack and called out to a nearby Marine, "Throw this into corridor 3. Then you press the elevator button immediately." Vina was startled upon seeing the object in Wang Yu's hand. "Is that a CBNM portable nuclear bomb?" Wang Yu nodded silently. Vina pondered for a moment, then glanced at the terrifying equipment. "Then there's still a squad of ours in the cave." Saying this, she lost her usual playful demeanor, appearing deeply pained. "A whole squad just gone like that?" Wang Yu gritted his teeth fiercely. "If we can't escape, it won't be just 1 squad." The elevator ascended. After a while, a thunderous explosion roared from the bottom of the shaft. The blast wave mingled with billowing smoke, dust, and flames violently propelled the elevator until it reached the high ground. The elevator cabin disintegrated upon landing. Vina clutched her head, rubbed it, and looked around anxious. "Wang Yu." Amid the smoke-filled scene, Vina desperately searched for Commander Wang Yu. Wang Yu had been flung far away by the blast wave, lying face up on the ground, gasping heavily. He slowly regained consciousness and gradually heard distant shouts in the distance. He wanted to rise and respond, but felt utterly drained of strength. Quick-witted, he groped on the ground with his hand. He touched a piece of metal and, disregarding everything, pulled it back. He raised it to look. It was his own gun. He then lifted the gun with all his might, pulled the trigger, and fired a burst of bullets into the... Vina heard the gunfire from afar and led several Marines running over. Approaching, she bent down, lifted Wang Yu's head, and called out urgently, Wang Yu, wake up, wake up." Wang Yu slowly opened his eyes and looked at her. "Don't worry, I'm fine, just shaken up. He'll be okay after a rest." Vina's voice choked. "You scared me, I thought you..." Wang Yu suddenly sat up, dusted off his clothes, and turned to Vina. "What? Are you crying?" I'm fine, don't worry. Looks like you do care about me, huh?" Whether out of comfort or otherwise, Wang Yu was somewhat surprised by how much Vina seemed to care for him. With Vina's help, Wang Yu slowly stood up. Then he turned to a soldier. "How are the losses?" "Heavy." The soldier adjusted his helmet. "Commander, including the cave team and our reconnaissance group, about 3 infantry squads and 1 Firebat squad, roughly 50 men." Wang Yu lowered his head and sighed, alas. Heavy losses. He then turned to Vina and asked, SCV losses aren't too bad, are they? Vina shook her head, don't ask. Let's get back to the temporary base as soon as possible. The mission to reinforce Outpost 24 isn't complete yet. Wang Yu and Vina led the remaining troops to the temporary base. Meanwhile, Zerg Prime Ekman was inside his own primary level 2 base. Akama stood by his side as they both listened intently to Scorpion 300's report. Master, we have captured Outpost 24. Now we can finally emerge from the river valley. We await your next command. Ekman's massive body writhed, followed by thousands of drones shifting with its movement. Akama, where should we strike next to instill greater fear in them? Akama turned and bowed. Yes, Master. Since we've taken Outpost 24, we now have 2 routes to choose from. One is to attack the human military-industrial zone in Sector Antec 4, which would slow down their mechanization progress on planet Alpha B. The other is to capture the Bulm 5 area, which has 2 human LC facilities and 1 sea crystal mine, easing our resource strain. Ekman's belly gurgled with white bubbles as he laughed coldly. Attack, both simultaneously. Akama immediately replied, Master, that is inadvisable. Ekman flew into a rage. Idiots are my orders, just empty words. Scorpion 300 and Akama immediately bowed their heads humbly. Master, we dare not. But Master, our resources are currently limited. We've just occupied the outpost, and your new evolution plan for the Hydralisks has only just begun. Therefore, I suggest we attack the Bulm area first to seize mineral deposits and LC gas for our subsequent offensives. I truly never intended to defy your command. Please reconsider, Master. Ekman sneered. I suppose none of you would dare. Humph. Scorpion 300, proceed with the plan. Scorpion 300 bowed and left. Ekman said to Akama, I told you before to find me a human host for infestation quickly. There's still no— You useless lot. Akama put on a fawning smile. Master, do not be angry. We are searching, and I have a new plan. We can turn this human mining city into our mutation base. Then the host you desire will be no problem. Wang Yu and Vina arrived outside the temporary base where 4 guard bunkers appeared intact. A few idle SCVs were chatting among themselves. One said, Hey mate, I think things are looking grim in Sector 3. Another replied, No way, isn't our third squad. The first SCV retorted, Don't mention it. Their combat effectiveness is terrible. I just heard Outpost 24 has fallen again. Over 200 casualties. Hearing this, Wang Yu and Vina approached. Wang Yu stepped forward and stood among the SCVs. What were you just saying? The 2 SCVs exchanged glances, reporting Commander. We said nothing. Wang Yu frowned. Did you say Outpost 24 was captured? Is that true? The SCV nodded. Yes, we heard it on the Alliance radio this morning. They said over 200 dead. Wang Yu was stunned. He stamped his foot in frustration. Ah, how disgraceful. Vina walked over slowly, glaring at the 2 SCVs with fiery eyes. Got nothing to do, have you? Spouting nonsense here. Careful, or I'll send you to scout unknown areas. Now get to upgrading the secondary bunker. The 2 SCVs quickly turned and left. Vina placed a hand on Wang Yu's shoulder and said softly, Don't blame yourself. We haven't seen a large-scale war like this in a long time. Our military has been neglected and units are under strength. It's understandable that the Zerg have succeeded for now, but I believe humanity will rally again. Wang Yu didn't respond. After a moment, he said quietly, Let's go report to headquarters. During the call, Brigadier General Rommel formally informed Wang Yu of the loss of Outpost 24. Wang Yu replied indignantly, General, I need to know when our forces will be fully assembled to launch a counterattack against the Zerg. Rommel reassured him, Commander, the loss of Outpost 24 is not your fault. Radar scans have detected that Ekman has developed an upgraded strain of Hydralisks. They can burrow and transform while continuing to fight. So we must upgrade your squad as well. The Human Alliance has now appointed you as commander of the 3rd Special Task Force. Additionally, we're sending you medic units and a motorized squad. Our technical director has already transmitted the blueprints to Vina. You can build new anti-air missile turrets to detect hidden enemies. Wang Yu stood at attention and replied, Thank you for your trust, General. What is my next mission? Rommel glanced at Katrine. You take it, Major. Katrine took over Commander. Our reconnaissance indicates that Ekman's subordinate Scorpion is leading forces toward Energy City. They have a massive army including upgraded Zerglings Hydralisks and a new genetic creation from Ekman. Luca, we have little data on it, but we know it's a deadly foe for your Marines. So you must use the terrain. You must hold out for 48 cosmic hours to ensure the evacuation succeeds. Good luck, Commander. Wang Yu shut off the communicator and turned to see Vina studying the blueprints intently. He walked over and asked, Laser missile turrets. What's that? Vina closed the electronic map. Oh, it's an Alliance technology transmitted from Sector CPAR. It integrates a gun missile system into our existing turrets to detect stealth units. I also see 2 types of motorcycles, a fast assault vehicle with a 12mm machine gun and an attack recon dual missile launcher plus a 20mm spider cannon vehicle. Commander, you're now a mechanized commander. Huh. Wang Yu smirked. I wonder if this can really stop that mysterious stalker. He'll count my blessings if it does. Assemble the troops and move out. The shuttle transported them to the boom area known as Energy City. As Wang Yu and Vina stepped off the transport, they saw the entire city buzzing with activity. It was a highly mechanized industrial district filled with towering energy pipelines and constantly shuttling Type 100 industrial mining vehicles. The setting sun cast a golden glow over the entire industrial skyline. This was something they had never seen before. On the hills near the city's edge, a dozen towering gun barrels reached into the clouds. Wang Yu asked curiously, Vina, what are those? Vina raised her binoculars and peered closely, murmuring, and they look like some kind of long-range weapon, probably large-caliber anti-aircraft artillery. But we usually use missiles. Why do they have such anti-aircraft guns here? It's really strange. Coordinates Energy City, Bulum District 5, new LiDAR base. Wang Yu and Vina stepped through the base's main entrance. On both sides, numerous SCVs were busily moving about with arcs and sparks from welding flashing everywhere. The glare was blinding. They arrived at the first checkpoint at the entrance where a soldier in an unusual uniform stopped them. Sorry, please show me your identification. Typically, many bases were guarded by Marines like Wang Yu. However, today this base was exceptionally special. Wang Yu had never seen soldiers like these before. Thus, while fumbling for his ID, he scrutinized the soldier. The uniform this soldier wore was vastly different from Wang Yu's marine armor. It appeared to be made of very thin material. Moreover, the style of the uniform differed from theirs. Additionally, the automatic weapons slung across their shoulders were quite distinct from his own machine gun. Therefore, while the soldier inspected his documents, Wang Yu casually asked, "What branch are you?" "Air Force." "New Marines." The soldier just examined the documents meticulously without a word. After the inspection, the automatic door slid open with a swoosh. The soldier snapped to attention and saluted. The two of them stepped into the first secure zone. This area also appeared quite tense. Besides the miniature autonomous transport vehicles shuttling back and forth, there were unusual soldiers stationed at every intersection. Following the electronic map, Wang Yu twisted and turned until he finally reached the secondary command center. The electronic door opened automatically, and the central computer Mazir said, "Hello, Commander. Everyone is waiting for you. You've worked hard." Wang Yu walked to the console, where two people stood. One was clad in a tight black uniform with a cloth band wrapped around his head. A bandolier of bullets was slung across his body, and several grenades were strapped to his waist. He had a black pistol on each hip. Wang Yu couldn't make out his features as half of his face was covered by a black cloth. The other person appeared to be an officer. However, his uniform was completely different from Wang Yu's, lacking the standard insignia of humanity. But on the left side of his chest, there was a mark resembling a scorpion. Wang Yu found this very strange. At that moment, the two saw Wang Yu and Vina. The one in the military uniform said with a smile, "Hello, Human Commander. Let me introduce myself. I am Colonel Marzel of the Human Alliance Forces. This is Major Fair, Commander of the Special Assault Detachment. I am pleased to meet you." Wang Yu, regardless of the specific rank, recognized them as senior officers. He immediately snapped to attention, reporting, "Commander, I am Wang Yu, a second lieutenant and squadron leader of the 3rd Squadron." Before Vina could speak, Wang Yu introduced her. "This is my technical officer, Second Lieutenant Vina. We are here on orders to reinforce this position and cover the evacuation of your civilians." Mazel turned to Major Fair and said, "Fair, it seems we can withdraw honorably. Our replacements are here." Fair glanced at Wang Yu. "Let's hope so." Mazel turned to Wang Yu. "Commander, I have 8 long-range anti-aircraft artillery pieces here. They can strike any target beyond your line of sight. However, they cannot counter cloaked stalkers. Additionally, I am leaving you 2 technical maintenance vehicles. As for bunkers, I think yours are more suitable. Furthermore, your missile turrets can be retrofitted with our 90mm perimeter cannons. This will aid your defense. Remember, we need 48 hours to evacuate. During this time, you must not retreat a single step." "Understood, Commander." As soon as they left, Wang Yu watched their retreating backs, an arrogant bunch. But their anti-aircraft artillery looks quite impressive. "Vina, check your technical database. Can we integrate this technology template?" Vina flipped open her recorder and scanned through it. "No. This one won't work either. Commander, it seems we lack the appropriate technical interface to accommodate their systems." Wang Yu shook his head regretfully. "Why, when we are all human, must we be divided by hierarchy?" Vina replied with a smile, "Commander, have you forgotten? We have always lived in this environment of competition and conflict." After a while, a piercing sharp alarm blared. Mazir immediately called out over the communicator, "Unidentified hostiles detected approaching the city." "Repeat, unidentified hostiles are approaching the city. All units assume combat readiness. All units assume combat readiness." Wang Yu immediately grabbed his machine gun and rushed out of the command room. He arrived at Outpost 1 on the southern edge of the city. A squad of Marines was stationed there. A massive cannon with a straight barrel stood erected. But the cannon was unmanned, apparently under fully automatic computer control. As Wang Ye's soldiers entered the bunker, Vina spotted a massive horde of surging enemies through her binoculars. Leading the charge were a motley crowd of infested, including tall, bow-legged grade 4 variants. Behind the infested packs of zerglings snarled and pawed the ground awaiting attack commands. Further back were about 500 hydralisks. In the deepest part was a creature dripping with viscous, sticky saliva sight that was simply nauseating. Before Wang Yu could give the order, the massive cannon opened fire towards the sky. The intervals between shots were slightly long, but each shell detonated right in the middle of the clustered enemy ranks. Instantly, a horrifying mess of shredded flesh and gore erupted into the air. Wang Yu was utterly amazed by this weapon. He turned to Vina, quickly build a mechanized factory and establish a secondary defense line to counter the stalkers. Vina nodded. Commander, we have already begun that. I noticed you are particularly keen, so I don't have time to waste with you. Wang Yu pretended not to hear, ignoring her. The secondary mechanized factory began producing motorcycles and assault vehicles, as well as 20mm spider mines. These spider mine vehicles, once produced, immediately moved out. They began rapidly deploying mines in front of the position, then rotated their turrets, aiming forward. Soon Ekman ordered the attack. The first wave of infested was a truly formidable sight. They launched their assault from 3 directions, east, north, and west. Each direction boasted a force of at least 1,000 infested. The 8 machine gun turrets and 8 new hybrid missile cannon turrets in those 3 sectors began their work. Inside the bunkers, the Marines aimed at the charging infested and opened fire with a steady rat-a-tat-tat. Bullets like fiery serpents streaked towards the enemy, instantly cutting down the infested in the lead. Explosions erupted everywhere. Blood and gore splattered. The stench was overwhelming. The 6 forward cannons, each aimed at different angles, formed a 3-dimensional interlocking field of fire. Boom, boom, boom. After each thunderous blast, a massive blossom of crimson gore would erupt amidst the advancing infested. Wang Yu assessed the situation, believing they could hold out for the required 48 hours. After all, the weaponry provided to him this time was far superior to the last. Wang Yu toured almost all the bunkers and fortifications within the triangular perimeter on a motorcycle. However, he suddenly noticed that only the infested were attacking. The large packs of zerglings and the spitting creatures hadn't moved at all. This struck him as very strange. He called out over the communicator, "Attention all units, the enemy has only committed the infested so far. A larger-scale Zerg assault may still be coming. All units must remain vigilant and guard against any enemy feints or counterattacks." Before his words faded, the ground in the middle of the base began to rumble and shake violently. The entire metal flooring trembled incessantly. Then the floor plates and soil erupted into the air. From the hole emerged a creature as tall as a 10-story building. Following this colossal beast, it heaved its massive body upward. A gigantic, glossy black form stood upon the central floor of the base. Wang Yu shouted into the communicator's "Stalker, all units fire at the center." Seeing the giant beast emerge, 7 or 8 soldiers rushed forward, attempting to capture it alive. The monster lowered its head towards the charging Marines and extended 2 tentacles. Blue electrical arcs crackled between the tentacles. Then the beast opened its massive maw and spat at the Marines. Instantly, 7 or 8 soldiers were drenched in blood. Some were horribly burned beyond recognition. Following the giant worm out of the hole came a swarm of zerglings pouring out in a flood. Wang Ye's eyes widened in alarm. At this rate, forget holding for 48 hours. They'd be lucky to survive the morning. The colossal monster began to slowly crawl towards the outpost on the central slope. Wang Yu immediately ordered, "Fire! Drive this monster back." It seemed the creature's goal was to destroy the 6 anti-aircraft cannons on the slope, so it began to slither towards one of the cannons. However, this position was a circular defensive complex with 2 strongpoints on each of the 4 sides. Each strongpoint was equipped with 1 such anti-aircraft cannon. On the southern slope, where Wang Yu stood, there were also 2 cannons. They hadn't fired yet. Now, seeing the giant beast come within range, the 2 cannons behind Wang Yu immediately opened fire. Boom, boom, boom. Several heavy shells landed squarely in the hole the beast had emerged from. In an instant, shredded flesh flew everywhere from the hole. Blood sprayed across the sky. The pack of zerglings below, intending to use the breach to surface and encircle the humans from within, were hit by those shells. Hundreds of zerglings crowded together in the tunnel were blown into mincemeat. The giant beast had already crawled towards the eastern turret. Due to its thick carapace, bullets simply couldn't penetrate it. Just then the cannons behind it fired again. Boom, boom, boom. Several shells landed beside the beast. One struck its body, blasting a hole over a meter wide. The monster let out a muffled, agonized roar and collapsed to the ground, unmoving. Wang Yu guessed this must be a stalker. Seeing the stalker slain, his confidence soared. "Brothers, stalkers are nothing to fear. Our cannons killed it. Hold the line. We must endure for 48 hours. As soon as Wang Yu saw the monster die, a weight lifted from his heart. He led a pair of riflemen forward to investigate, with Vina following closely behind him. Vina remarked as they walked. No way. This thing was hyped up so much. Dead in less than 2 hours. Wang Yu remained silent. Upon closer inspection, the enormous subterranean reptile was covered in shattered fragments from the explosion. Only then did Vina remember to use the central query device. She input an image of the giant beast into the device and initiated a search. Lurker reptilian closely related to Earth's hill-shaped beetles. Its carapace is robust, capable of resisting any light weaponry and direct attacks from small-caliber autocannons. Its attack method is close-range spray. Due to the abundance of white phosphorus and sulfide fluids in its body, it can spew lava at extremely high temperatures. Its lifespan is approximately 2000 space cycles. This species originates from the beta star of the Great Bear Galaxy. Warning: this is not a local insect. Vina was stunned after reading this. She handed the query device to Wang Yu, who was also baffled. Commander, you need to see this. Someone's playing tricks on us. Wang Yu took the device and examined it closely. Maybe Command doesn't know either. Why would they need to deceive us? Vina turned back, gesturing toward the towering gun barrels. You've been the captain of the 3rd Infantry Squad for quite a while. When have you ever seen our headquarters equipped with such gear? As a senior technical officer, I've never laid eyes on it. Wang Yu listened intently to Vina's report. Moreover, from what I've observed, they are not of the same ethnic group as us. At best, they are genetic variants from Earth, the mother planet. Wang Yu nodded. I noticed that as soon as I entered. Indeed, this place is exceedingly eerie. I haven't seen their SCVs, nor detected any crystal or here. Yet what resources are they relying on to gain capital? Vina took the query device, input a new image, and initiated a search. However, the system displayed a prompt: insufficient permissions, cannot query. Vina handed the device back to Wang Yu. Take a look at this. Wang Yu scrutinized the image of an object. Patches of emerald green scattered beneath bizarre trees. Can you analyze their composition? Vina nodded. I sampled it from a few SCVs earlier. I discovered it's highly corrosive. The SCV's outer armor was corroded and my skin suffered mild burns. Hey, raise my analysis report. But don't report this to the base. Wang Yu picked up the device and opened the report. Class: a radioactive crystalline system. A tradable commodity prevalent in the Centaurus and Milky Way galaxies. Properties: highly corrosive, capable of burning human skin. However, it is favored by local pig-like species. Growth primarily produced by decaying woody plants. A continuously generated waste product. Collection: automated harvesting by mining vehicles. In areas without native organisms, it is quickly depleted. Seeing this, Vina nudged Wang Yu. Look, those vehicles. Wang Yu looked up to see a dozen boxy vehicles constantly shuttling through an electronic gate. He shook his head. I think since we're part of the Human Alliance, maybe we don't need to dig this deep. Perhaps Command has its own difficulties. What do you think? Vina wanted to say more, but Wang Yu turned and walked away. Wang Yu turned back and spoke into his communicator. Attention, all mobile units. Fortify defenses quickly to prevent enemy counterattacks. He then mounted an assault motorcycle. Vina got on another vehicle. They drove one after the other toward the temporary base command center. Just before reaching the base gate, suddenly the piercing wail of air raid sirens blared. The main computer issued a mobilization order. Alert. Unauthorized intrusion detected. Activate air defense systems. All units enter level 1 combat readiness. This is not a drill. Before the announcement ended, hundreds of Zerg overlords drifted in midair. They flew swiftly, evidently equipped with enhanced exhaust systems by Aikman. On the ground, over a dozen missile turrets built by Vina's team simultaneously aimed skyward. With a series of whooshes, hundreds of Viper C missiles shot into the air. Showers of shredded flesh and Zerg blood rained down into the base. Yet the overlords showed no sign of retreat. They began to disperse, some flying along the base's circular fences, others heading toward the heavy artillery base on the hillside. Wang Yu shouted into his communicator, concentrate fire on the overlords targeting the heavy artillery base. Hundreds of missiles launched from beneath the circular fortifications, soaring into space. Instantly, the overlords nearing the artillery base were shot down one after another. However, this left the missile turrets in the central zone and near the walls vulnerable. The Zerg's tactic was clear: sacrifice a small portion to achieve a larger strategic victory. Thus, hundreds of overlords densely arrayed themselves above the dozen missile turrets, watching as they were shot down one by one, yet refusing to retreat. The missile turrets, bogged down by this relentless engagement, could not spare attention for other overlords. Those overlords, stepping over their fallen comrades, began flying toward critical wall sections and the main gate. Wang Yu could only order the Marines to hold the line with machine guns. But their caliber was too small, and their range too short to effectively intercept those overlords. Wang Yu was at his wit's end, having no other means to stop the Zerg's suicidal airdrops. He immediately ordered Vina to build more missile turrets. Just then, an unfamiliar contingent of troops emerged from the barracks and factories on either side of the gate. They carried no automatic machine guns, but instead shouldered white tubes spreading out along the wall. They raised their tubes and fired man-portable anti-air missiles at the overlords in rapid succession, a sight that took both Wang Yu and Vina by surprise. The two were nearly dumbfounded. Some overlords found suitable drop zones and released two furry multi-tentacled hideous creatures from their abdomens. Upon hitting the ground, these creatures wasted no time burrowing into the earth, whether it was hard soil or the base's paved flooring. They vanished from the surface in an instant, becoming visible only within a certain range of the missile turrets or through the base's laser radar scans. Once underground, these monsters launched their assault. Blades of sharp, razor-like spikes erupted from beneath the ground everywhere. These spikes appeared in rows. Unaware of the danger, a squad of Marines charged forward, hoping to destroy the creatures before they burrowed. But as they neared the monsters, they had already disappeared underground, vanishing without a trace. The Marines hesitated for a moment. Wang Yu sensed the impending doom and shouted into his communicator, "Retreat. Squad 4 converge on the missile turrets." But it was too late. Rows of blade-like spikes on the ground churned like a meat grinder's blades. With a series of clacks, they rose and fell. Nearly a dozen Marines from the squad 4 or 5 screamed as their bodies were torn apart, blood splattering everywhere. The remaining Marines dashed toward the missile turrets. Halfway there, another set of spikes clacked twice. The remaining 4 or 5 Marines fell, their bodies shattered, and Wang Yu broke out in a cold sweat, muttering to himself, "Is this the legendary lurker Luke?" The mechanized squad leader Faye Arthur drove up in a 20 spider vehicle. "Commander, is this thing a lurker? I don't think it's so terrifying. Let it see my spiders. My little piggies specialize in killing these brainless up." Wang Yu waved his hand. "All right, Faye Arthur, take your spider squad and teach those bastards a lesson, but be careful." Faye Arthur swerved his vehicle. "Yes, Commander. Come on, brothers, let's show them some color." With that, a squad of spider vehicles brandishing 20mm cannons sped forward. Truth be told, Wang Yu didn't care much for these arrogant spiders. He was more interested in the 90 siege tanks and their gruff crews. But he wasn't yet qualified to command those high-level mechanized units. The spiders reached the area near the lurkers and immediately began deploying their mines. Spider mines crawled out of the launchers. As soon as they hit the ground, the lurkers were revealed. The mine-laying vehicles opened fire. With a few rounds from the 20mm cannons, a lurker was blasted into a bloody pulp. When a spider mine reached a lurker, it detonated instantly, blowing the creature to pieces. However, each mine-laying vehicle carried only 3 spider mines with no way to replenish them. So the spider vehicles had no intention of surviving after deploying their mines. Guided by the spider mines, they concentrated fire on the exposed lurkers, eliminating 2 or 3 more. Vina wasn't idle either. She ordered SCVs to follow the spider vehicles closely, rapidly constructing multiple defensive missile turrets around them, establishing a relatively stable counterattack position. But Wang Yu's Marines could no longer keep up. Against the lurkers, they were far too fragile. Wang Yu could only lead his Marines to hastily construct bunkers behind the missile towers. However, he soon discovered that the machine gun bunkers were as fragile as eggshells under the assault of the lurkers. With just a few strikes, the bunkers were reduced to ashes by the lurkers' front claws. The Marines who managed to escape could barely withstand a single blow. Thus, Wang Yu still could not hold the position. Only by building bunkers beneath the missile towers could they effectively resist the ground spikes attacks. Despite the support of spider vehicles, he felt completely helpless. Soon the 6 anti-aircraft cannons on the hillside were overturned one by one by the lurkers' ground spikes. As a result, a massive swarm of zerglings surged up from the mountaintop to the surrounding walls. In no time, the seemingly sturdy fence walls were on the verge of collapse. Behind the zerglings followed groups of hydralisks. Once inside, they began to metamorphose, instantly turning into lurkers that quickly burrowed underground and started stabbing wildly with crackling sounds. Even many of the spice vehicles were overturned one after another. Fortunately, at that moment, Wang Yu and Weina received a notification from the base. Commander Zone 5 is no longer habitable for humans. The headquarters ordered that the transport and evacuation mission was complete and commanded your unit to withdraw immediately. Upon hearing this, Wang Yu glanced at Weina and said, "Shall we go?" "This place is about to become a living hell," Weina replied. "Yes, it seems they intend to completely destroy this area." As they spoke, a scout motorcycle pulled up. "Commander, the north gate has been breached by hydralisks and zerglings. Both outer main cannons have been destroyed." Wang Yu asked, "Have their base and transport vehicles withdrawn?" The scout motorcycle's rider replied, "The evacuation is complete. Commander, it's time for us to leave." With that, 2 or 3 enormous lurkers emerged from the floorboards on the north side. They sprayed fire in all directions, and within moments, several missile towers collapsed with a crash as the floorboards were torn up. The hole grew larger and swarms of zerglings poured out from it. This effectively cut off the front base from the... Consequently, at least 2 squads of Marines and 1 spider vehicle unit in the front were unable to retreat. Wang Yu picked up his machine gun. He was about to mount the motorcycle when Weina grabbed him. "Commander, you can't do this. It's too dangerous to go back there," she said anxiously. Wang Yu turned and stared at her. "Do you want me to abandon my men again?" "That's a damned logic. Wayna shouted. If you go out like this, can you save them? Wang Yu glared ahead angrily. So I'm supposed to stand by and do nothing. Wayna shook her head. There's no choice. We have to think of the remaining brothers. Wang Yu gritted his teeth. Fine, let me have one last communication with them. He then opened the communicator. Squad 1, Squad 2, this is Commander Wang Yu. What's your situation, eh? Intense gunfire and explosions crackled through the speaker along with the muffled grunts of bugs being hit and the painful cries of soldiers. Report, Commander. You should withdraw immediately. Leave this place to us. We will hold out to the very end. Hurry, get out of here as fast as you can. Before the words ended, a scream was heard followed by silence. What did that mean? Wang Yu understood all too well. He finally mounted the motorcycle and Wayna got into another. The two vehicles turned and sped toward the northernmost outer gate. Passing through the outer gate, they arrived at a nearby landing pad. This time they could no longer return to the temporary base. They had to be evacuated directly by shuttle. A heavy RT-256 shuttle hovered above the landing pad. Wayna had just contacted the space station to dispatch a transport. The two rose into the air guided by the shuttle's gravity beam and slowly entered the cabin. The shuttle then closed its door, turned, and flew away. The moment it departed, a huge lurker emerged from the ground right in the middle of the landing pad. It raised its two front horns which acted like flamethrowers and sprayed fire toward the shuttle. Fortunately, the shuttle was fast enough to escape its range and fly out of the battle zone. Don't be like this. We've fought dozens, hundreds of battles. If you always act this way, how can you go on? Wayna said, half comforting and half complaining. Wang Yu took off his helmet, his eyes moist, tears wetting his collar. I just feel so humiliated and frustrated. From the lab to Outpost 24, and then here we've suffered one defeat after another, retreating in panic. Wayna, you saw it today. Our alliance is not militarily weak, but we have no desire to counterattack. Block and retreat, retreat and block. If we had proactively discovered the bug nests and used those heavy cannons, would we have come to this? Wayna reached out and placed her hand on his shoulder. I understand your feelings, but we are soldiers of the Alliance. Our duty is to obey. From what you've said, I've also noticed that headquarters intends to abandon Alpha B Star. They are just making preparations for the abandonment now. As for why they are abandoning it, I'm not clear about the Colonel's thinking. Wang Yu looked out the window. The entire mining area was ablaze with the insectoid race swarming from all directions and capturing the zone. The heavy artillery pieces fell one by one. The whole region looked like a hell with raging fires everywhere. A huge scorpion crawled up from underground. It made its way to the temporary center, which was now in ruins, but many devices remained intact. The scorpion nodded with satisfaction and transmitted the information to Akama via its consciousness. Akama then reported to the bug ancestor. Master, we have captured the No. 5 mining area. However, the area has high radiation levels which are also unsuitable for our race master. Aikman wriggled his huge body and said, Tell Scorpion 300 not to hesitate. Quickly place the brain bug inside the human base. I need those base facilities to provide me with new information and develop my wisdom. Do you understand? Akama replied, Understood, Master. Scorpion 300 ordered the brain bug to enter the temporary base center and begin infecting all technical intelligent devices, especially the human base's central processor. The brain bug spread a semicircular covering over the base, then inserted its tentacles into every crevice of the machines. Soon the voice system and sensing system of the computer center were all disabled. Theoretically, the intelligence center was dead. However, about 10 minutes later, the computer intelligence system restarted. This time it spoke in a different voice, Brain Bug No. 1 connecting to the bug ancestor. I have completed the infection of the human base. I have learned that the humans and their allied kin using alien technology have introduced several new pieces of equipment from the Milky Way that will cause great harm to us. I suggest you initiate the Wyvern plan. I have transmitted the Wyvern data and information to your mind. Awaiting your command, Master. Additionally, Master, the base is now producing a large number of mutants. Some of these mutants are derived from the bodies of the Marines, so they now have their own infantry weapons. They are no longer the empty-handed swaying creatures. Master, the bug ancestor Aikman rolled on the ground incessantly, seemingly in great discomfort. After a while, he finally reacted, slowly stretching his huge, bloated body. Brain Bug No. 1, your information is indeed very rich and to my liking. The No. 5 area is very close to the connection bridge in the northern-southern jungle zone of Alpha B Star. Tell Scorpion 300 that their next order is to capture the connection bridge and completely cut off contact with the south. Then half of Alpha B Star will belong to our race. Do you understand? Brain Bug No. 1 replied, Yes, Master. I heard clearly. Mutant workers are not afraid of radiation, so they can handle the mining. I will immediately order Scorpion 300 to move toward the connection bridge. However, Master, what about the Wyverns? Can you deploy them this time? Aikman rolled his body again. I think it's almost time. But the Wyverns still have 2 variant upgrade forms to analyze. I need to study them further. Have they set out? They must reach the connection bridge as soon as possible. I have detected rich sea crystal or an LC gas or near the bridge. Occupy it and build several second-tier bases there, sending a new brain bug. Seal the connection bridge forever. Then our next step will be to deal with the other half of the planet. Also, I have transmitted the wyvern information to you. Basic wyverns can attack both ground and air simultaneously using acid that causes splash damage. However, these creatures tend to cluster together because their original genes still see. Upon receiving the order, Scorpion 300 burrowed underground. Then large numbers of zerglings and hydralisks began marching in groups toward the connection bridge. The connection bridge is located in the northern part of the No. 5 area near the Luoyan Lake district. The lake water is highly alkaline and requires purification before use. The bridge itself is a relic of ancient technology, the only hub connecting the northern and southern hemispheres of Alpha B star. Around the Luoyan Lake area, there are pitch-black jungle zones where any creature or machine that enters never returns alive. At the temporary system of Base 6 Anya, and Wang Yu faced Major General Rommel on the large screen, speaking with a hint of sarcasm. Congratulations. Commander, your promotion rate is faster than our retreat. Vina immediately nudged him, and Catherine replied from the side. Commander, you seem quite hot-tempered. Wang Yu suppressed his anger and said, so many of our soldiers are fighting in blood, but I see no hope. We are being thrown into battle squad by squad without any order or strategic organization. Rommel said angrily, silence, Lieutenant. I now permit you to add a new squad. A unit of folding tanks. Are you satisfied now? Just then a flash of white light suddenly appeared before both of them. With a poof, Vina immediately covered her nose and glared at Wang Yu. Can't you warn me before you pass gas? Wang Yu was stunned, then quickly retorted, I didn't do it, I swear I didn't. Just as he said this, a girl suddenly appeared before Wang Yu. She looked young, somewhere between 10 and 18. The span of human life is always so vast. Wang Yu and Vina both stared intently at the girl. Wang Yu asked, little sister, where are you from? What's your name? The girl had a baby face and short hair. My name is Hu Xiaoman. I'm a transmigrator from Earth. Pretty cool, huh? Vina said dismissively, transmigration. You mean space-time folding? Hu Xiaoman laughed. Haha, you guys are so outdated. On our Earth, transmigration is simple and efficient. It's just a fart pulled back, nothing so complicated. Then the screen lit up and Major General Rommel appeared again. Catherine beside him remained unchanged. Wang Yu quickly pointed at the girl and said, is your system malfunctioning? Where did this chick come from? How can she casually enter the command center? Rommel and Catherine were speechless, just standing there dumbfounded. Rommel said, Panda, check this girl's information. Panda scanned the girl and quickly reported. Hu Xiaoman, 18, a failed college entrance exam, loves gaming, former WCG team, human race expert, current commander of the sanitation squad on Alpha B star, hometown Earth. Rommel nodded. Alright, she's the sanitation squad commander as your deputy, okay. Your mission this time is to hold the planet's north-south connecting bridge for at least 48 hours. Wang Yu and Vina were about to end the call. Hu Xiaoman raised her hand and blocked Wang. Yes. Wait, I have a request. If this request isn't granted, we won't even hold for 5 hours. Rommel gestured to stop Wang Yu. It's fine, let her speak. Wang Yu had to comply and withdrew his hand. Hu Xiaoman continued, Commander, are the folding tanks you mentioned the attack tanks from CC? Rommel was momentarily stunned. Well, Hu Xiaoman went on, those tanks only have a 50mm caliber. The firepower is too weak. For our defense of the bridge, the Zerg will definitely send ground spiders and stalkers a spitter combo. So we need your 3,085 siege tanks. Rommel looked troubled. This. We've already organized 4 armored tank legions and 4 infantry legions. I can't pull out new siege. Hu Xiaoman immediately said, you can give the blueprints to Officer Vina. She can produce the new tanks. Also, we're likely to face enemy airstrikes. So we also need Goliath Guardians. Rommel nodded. Then we'll supplement you with 1 squad of Guardians. That should do right. Just then Vina interrupted. Commander, can we get the heavy artillery we saw last time? Rommel agreed. Wang Yu, Vina, and Hu Xiaoman led their troops into the southern defense area. It already had a basic defensive system. Multiple machine gun bunkers were spaced with over a dozen towering cannons erected between them. Beside them, according to Wang Yu's arrangement, a siege tank was also placed. Behind each such configuration stood a Goliath Guardian robot. Between each bunker's left and right intervals were multiple missile turrets. Beneath the missiles were mounted 25mm rotary cannons. At the very rear, 4 SCVs were stationed ready for repairs at any time. Beside them were 2 medics. Wang Yu stood with the transmigration expert, Hu Xiaoman. Wang Yu put down his binoculars and looked around. Who? Hu Xiaoman didn't like that. What who? You can't even mahjong 13 orphans, and you're calling who? Just call me Xiaoman. Wang Yu coughed. With this defense line, do you think we can hold for 48 hours? Hu Xiaoman thought for a moment. I think their first wave should be stoppable, but we'll definitely need reinforcements later. She glanced at Vina. Engineer, it all depends on you. Vina rolled her eyes at Hu Xiaoman. What do you, a silly Earth girl, know? Scorpion 300 led about 10 squads of Zerglings and 8 squads of Hydralisks, along with 2 newly added squads of Mutalisks. After approaching the GD shore, 2 squads of Hydralisks began to morph and split. A third squad of Hydralisks morphed with about 2 squads of Overlords circling overhead. They prepared the old tactic of dropping to the opposite bank of GD. All Zerg forces awaited just one command from Scorpion 300. In the psychic link, Scorpion 300 contacted Akama. Akama, this is Scorpion 300. I request to initiate the attack. Akama asked the Zerg overmind. Master, our forces have reached the designated position. Should we begin the attack mode? Ekman asked, is the deployment clear? I do not wish to be defeated by insignificant humans. Akama immediately relayed, Scorpion 300, you may first send a scout to infect and reconnoiter. We need precise intelligence. You must understand this bridge is a must-have for both them and us. After a moment, Scorpion 300 contacted again. Akama, I've sent scouts, but they have a way to cleanse parasites. I can only get a brief look. However, I'm sure they've deployed siege tanks and some kind of folding tank. Also, they have Goliath Guardians. This might be to counter our Mutalisks. But the GD bridge can't be burrowed. So our stalkers and lurkers can't. The drop forces are insufficient. I suggest switching to a drop assault combined with a feint on the bridge. Akama said to Ekman, Master, Scorpion 300 requests to launch the first wave of air strikes coordinated with a feint on the bridge. What do you think? Ekman nodded and replied, go. Let them know the Zerg are unstoppable. Akama relayed to Scorpion 300, order initiate the attack. Wait. As the words faded, a man suddenly appeared before Ekman. Ekman glanced at him and said, who are you? The man spoke, Lu Dawei from Hushin County, Shaanxi. I've transmigrated here to help you out. Ekman said slowly, do you wish to join my Zerg? Lu Dawei said, I know if I join your kind you'll be my master, and I must obey you right. Ekman twisted his body. Are you a human from Earth? Lu Dawei sneered. I was driven out by them. At work, they made me do 996. I opened a Taobao store, they said I was selling fakes and shut it down. I wrote novels, they told me to go be a failure. Finally, I married a wife, but she ran off with some CEO. I had a child, but it died of illness within 3 months. Can you blame me for being the unluckiest? Ekman pointed to a green liquid. Akama, give that to him. I need humans who hate their own kind to the core. The man looked at the potion. After I drink this, can I still find a wife? Ekman said, drink it, and you will ascend to a new era. You will realize how foolish and futile human marriage is. Lu Dawei laughed. That's good, at least I can escape the freak of mother-in-law economics. With that, he tilted his head back and gulped down the potion. In just a few seconds, Lu Dawei underwent a violent genetic mutation. His limbs stretched outward completely, then his hair stood upright and grew rapidly, fusing into a sheet. The middle part condensed into several thicker strands. They turned into bone. On his head formed a hat, like a palm fan. Then Lu Dawei's belly began to swell larger and larger. By now he could no longer make a sound. Next, his arms rapidly divided into 4 in front of his chest, with one pair reaching the ground. Then his upper torso shortened and his massive abdomen extended backward. His legs also split into 4 thick hind limbs. As his upper body straightened, 2 more arms grew from the lumbar region. These 2 arms were extraordinarily long, supporting from the waist all the way to the ground. When Lu Dawei spoke again, he had become a she. Master, I am Queen Silma. Awaiting your orders, I am willing to fight for my swarm. For the glory of the Zerg. Ekman looked at Silma. Well done, my queen. You are exactly what my base lacks most. Only your spreading creep can break through the enemy's ground, allowing our spine crawlers to enter their territory. Silma bowed to Ekman again. Respected master, I wish to join the battle immediately. Ekman said to Akama, since the queen is born, tell Scorpion 300 to hand over command to the Zerg queen and return to base immediately. I have more important matters. Akama immediately replied, as you command, my master. I will see to it at once. Following Ekman's command, Selma led a massive swarm of insectoid troops toward the bridgehead, though they were still some distance away. However, the ground was fortified with 12 heavy artillery pieces. From a long range offshore, they opened fire at the vanguard dogpack with a rhythmic series of booming thuds. In an instant, the leading dogs were blown to pieces, with some lying on their backs and others shattered beyond. As a second wave of dogs prepared to charge again, Selma raised a hand to halt her forces. The Beetle 500, an evolution of the original Lurker, emerged under her command. Its body was far more massive, equipped with an elongated flamethrower capable of both anti-air and ground attacks. Unlike the Stalker, it possessed unique traits. Its burrowing ability allowed it to traverse without obstruction from the barrier. Selma shouted to the Beetle 500, go take your troops across that bridge, destroy their bridgehead now. The Beetle 500 grumbled in assent, and over a dozen massive Beetle 500s burrowed into the ground. After crossing the bridge, the Beetles scattered, with 2 heading toward the bunkers. Wang Yu, Hu Xiaomin, and Vina stood watching the explosive scene ahead. Hu Hu Xiaoman asked. Commander, should the 3085 tank unit commence attack? Wang Yu raised his binoculars, gazing forward. Wait a little longer, just a bit more. Vina suddenly pressed her earpiece. What did you say? Speak up, it's too noisy here. She stepped aside. Hello. Hello. Just then 2 bunkers at the bridgehead suddenly flipped into the air from their foundations. Clouds of dust filled Wang Yu's binoculars. Damn, the bridgehead is breached. Vina, send repair teams immediately. Xiaoman, order the tank unit to open fire. Hu Xiaoman replied. Not now, Commander. If the bridgehead falls, a flood of dogs will pour in. Deploying armor in siege mode would make them sitting ducks. Wang Yu looked at her tensely. Then what do you suggest? Hu Xiaoman shot back. Commander, give me 2 squads of Marines and 4 medics. Plus 1 squad of firebats. I can hold the line until Commander Vina repairs the bunkers. Wang Yu asked, are you serious? You'll face hundreds of dogs and hydralisks. Hu Xiaoman nodded. Trust me, Commander. When it comes to handling Marines, I might be more skilled than you. Wang Yu didn't quite grasp her meaning. Nevertheless, he approved her plan. Hu Xiaoman led 2 squads of Marines, 6 medics, and 6 firebats. Forming a temporary defensive unit, she ordered, as they neared the bridge, brothers, inject your morphine. Show them that Marines and medics are invincible. Charge. Through his binoculars, Wang Yu saw a girl with rolled-up sleeves, a headband tied around her forehead, wielding a pair of automatic 9mm pistols. Leading a squad of adrenaline-fueled troops, she charged recklessly toward the bridgehead to confront the surging. Behind them, 6 white-clad medics scurried like little pigs, their RT-300 medical guns flashing. Under Hu Xiaoman's command, the Marines unleashed a furious barrage on the first wave of dogs, their bullets raining like a storm. Wave after wave of dogs fell, with the next ranks trampling over the fallen. Yet the Marines remained. They continued firing. Behind Hu Xiaoman, a medic aimed her gun directly at her, ensuring she took minimal damage. Hu Xiaoman roared, come on, you filthy dogs. They'll send you all back to hell. Just then the command center door swung open, and a Special Forces soldier with a black headband entered. He saluted Wang Yu, reporting, Commander. Reconnaissance Squadron 14 of the Allied forces has arrived, as ordered. We are the unrivaled masters of anti-burrow and stealth operations. Assign us our mission. Wang Yu returned the salute and glanced at Vina, who oversaw non-frontline units. Vina stepped forward. Hello, Captain. Our troops are holding the line ahead. Can you ensure no lurkers are detected within 1,000 kilometers from the bridge to the surrounding area? Can you do that? The Special Forces captain saluted. Consider it done, beautiful ma'am. 12 heavy trucks, each carrying large tanks, arrived near the bridge. On the bridge, Hu Xiaoman's team was locked in fierce combat, with the dog tied. Behind them, a wave of reinforcing hydralisks began to stir restlessly. The heavy trucks then deployed. Each bore a thick, long tube that slowly rose, pointing skyward, while stabilizers extended from the vehicle. Red warning lights flashed. Lurkers under the bridge. Fire. Before the words faded, distant muffled thuds echoed. 2 massive lurkers detected beneath the bridge shuddered as a huge shell pierced their hard shells. Boom. The giant lurker was blasted upward, leaving a massive hole in its back, its corpse floating above the barrier zone. Another lurker turned to flee, but successive giant shells exploded on and around it, blooming like death. The last lurker, nearly reaching the opposite shore, was struck simultaneously by 2 giant shells, producing 2 consecutive thunderous blasts. The lurker was torn apart. Immediately, 8 heavy artillery pieces targeted the hydralisk staging area behind the bridge, launching a fierce assault. Each shell turned 7 or 8, even a dozen hydralisks into pulp. The recently withdrawn 3085 tank unit turned back. The 4 bunkers at the bridgehead were fully rebuilt, with a fresh batch of Marines stationed inside. The tank unit began to regroup at the bridge. Wang Yu called out over the radio, Hu Xiaoman, fall back now. Hand over the defense to. His words were cut short as a dark, ominous swarm of bizarre creatures appeared in the distant sky, moving with incredible speed. Hu Xiaoman shouted, quick! Activate air support. Those are Mutalisks, the Zerg's primary air force. We need anti-air cover. Wang Yu wasted no time pressing the console button. Deploy the Guardian Mech Squad. They must annihilate the Mutalisk swarm beyond the defense line. As the order was given, over 20 mechanical giants emerged from hidden bunkers around the base, each wielding dual handheld, 3-barreled rotary cannons. They were also equipped with twin Hellfire anti-air missiles. Striding with a wide gait, they advanced toward the barrier's edge. The Mutalisk swarm tried to use their long-range splash damage to strike the heavy artillery and tank base from the barrier's edge. However, these mechs had far greater range. A volley of Hellfire missiles streaked toward the Mutalisk swarm, exploding in rapid succession. Several Mutalisks were torn to shreds midair. Most of the remaining Mutalisks were wounded, turning to attack the bridge. The barrier allowed no creature or equipment to pass except for lurkers. Now the bulk of the lurkers were exposed by reconnaissance forces, facing near-total annihilation. The only option left was a frontal assault. Selma ordered 1/3 of the hydralisks to transform into stalkers, immediately charging recklessly. She believed that once they breached the bunker line, The stalkers could swiftly destroy the bunkers. However, the first wave of stalkers could only advance side by side due to the bridge's width. This made them easy targets for the bunker machine guns and the 85 caliber siege tanks behind. Soon 7 or 8 stalkers were reduced to pools of blood, strewn across the bridge. With his remaining forces unable to break through the human bridgehead defense, Selma was forced to contact Ekman. Respected master, my Mad Dog assault squads are decimated. I have fewer than 3 squads left from 12, and my Hydralisk Legion is down to less than 1 squad. Master, I request a halt to the offensive. Ekman replied, what about your lurkers and stalkers? Why haven't I heard news of their victory? Selma shook her head. The human allied forces have deployed long-range detection vehicle systems. All our stealth and burrowed units have been exposed. My 3 squads of lurkers and 3 squads of stalkers are all lost. Master, I urge a pause to regroup and replenish our forces. Only then can we overwhelm the enemy with terrifying force and break through. Suddenly Ekman screamed through the psychic link. No, impossible. No one can fully detect our dual burrow units. Humans still rely on their Science Research Center for intel. They only have missile turrets. Where did they get detection vehicles? Selma said, Master, the detection vehicles come from their allies. And there are many. Akama also looked at Ekman. Master, I think we truly need to regroup. Our 3rd-tier base has completed gene transformation. The most ferocious giant beasts on this planet are now born under our command. We also have an upgraded long-range strike air force. Master, while we don't fear casualties from such crude tactics, we cannot afford to waste excessive LC, and Ekman finally decided. All right, Selma, leave some vanguard units to ambush and hold the bridgehead. Withdraw the rest to base. That's the only way for now. Away was an ordinary girl living in contemporary society. At the blossoming age of 18, she should have been entitled to more romance and joy. Regrettably, Away's mother passed away shortly after her birth, essentially sacrificing her own life to bring Away into the world. However, Away's father had always deeply loved his wife. In his understanding, a beloved wife is eternal, while children are merely garments. This was because her father was the CEO of a multinational conglomerate. The concept of wealth was nothing more than a string of 9s followed by more 9s or 0s. From the very day of her birth, Jiang Hua waged a war against his only daughter. Jiang Hua subsequently married 2 more wives who bore him 3 sons. These 3 sons lived like princes and nobles. As for Away, she could only endure her father's unrelenting resentment. After entering university, Away kept her family background a secret, never revealing it to her classmates. She had few friends, only one girl she considered a close confidant. Her name was Yanzi. Yanzi came from a moderately wealthy family and had always treated Away as her personal maid. Their so-called friendship was merely based on the servitude Away provided. They both lived off campus, renting a single room together. Every morning, Away was responsible for cleaning and tidying. Yanzi, on the other hand, only concerned herself with entertainment. In the evenings after self-study, Yanzi watched television and movies while Away cooked, cleaned, and washed the dishes. Others might think Away was foolish, but in Away's eyes, having someone like Yanzi who was somewhat close to her was already satisfying enough. Before long, Yanzi started a romance. However, it was one-sided. The boy was pursuing Yanzi while Yanzi was chasing after another tall, rich, and handsome man. Xiangzi was the boy pursuing Yanzi. His family was very poor. His father had died in the line of duty years ago, and his mother worked herself to the bone to support his education. In a megacity like the imperial capital, Mahai, being poor meant a death sentence. To attend university, Xiangzi had to study while working multiple jobs outside. He earned money to cover his tuition and support his family. By then his mother had fallen gravely ill from overwork. Being able to get close to a girl like Yanzi gave him a sense of fulfillment. Since Yanzi treated Xiangzi as a backup, she was always hot and cold with him. Every time he visited her place, she would either ignore him or be absent entirely. The one who received him was always Yanzi's so-called best friend Away. The two, both adrift in the world, found they had much in common when they sat together. After spending more time together, Xiangzi realized that Away was actually more suited for him. He began to secretly express his affection for her. Away found herself in a dilemma, caught between her best friend and the boy she truly liked. She couldn't bring herself to choose. Love, it was always what girls most yearned for and chased after. Whether in fantasy or reality, a prince on a white horse was always better than a grinning toad. So Away made her final choice. She left Yanzi, who had always treated her like a slave. Filled with joy, she threw herself into Qiangzi's arms. Their passionate romance began in full blaze. At that time, Xiangzi cherished and adored Away deeply. He made extraordinary efforts. During the day, he attended classes. At noon, he returned to cook meals for Away. Then he rushed to the hospital to care for his mother for 2 hours before heading to his second part-time job in the afternoon. He returned to campus at 6 for 2 hours of self-study, the only time he had to read. By 8, he had to be back at the little nest he shared with Away. He would prepare the meal before Away came home, then collapse onto the sofa from sheer exhaustion, falling into a deep sleep. Every time Away entered the house, She would be greeted by the aroma of delicious food and the sight of Xiangzi snoring away on the sofa. Tears would fill her eyes. Away would only eat a little, letting him sleep longer so he could rest. Usually Xiangzi would wake up around 9. Because he was a deep sleeper, he recovered quickly. When he got up and saw Away, he always urged her not to wait for him to eat. Then they would eat dinner together. Their life was hard. But in Away's heart, it was the warmest and happiest time of her life. She wished it could last forever. However, good times never last long. Before long, Yinzi, who had been toyed with and discarded by a rich playboy, somehow found Xiangzi and Away through a classmate. She barged in, unceremoniously catching Xiangzi when Away was not home. She demanded that he get back together with her, as if the world revolved around her alone. At first Xiangzi refused, and he refused firmly. Yinzi had no choice. But whenever she saw Away so happy and content, her heart burned with envy, jealousy, and hatred. By a stroke of luck, Yinzi found the perfect opportunity. Yanzi's mother was the vice director and a professor at a certain hospital. Coincidentally, Qiangzi's mother was a patient at that very hospital. Even more coincidentally, his mother was under the care of Yanzi's mother. Xiangzi visited his mother every afternoon. He fetched hot water, peeled apples, and told her all about his relationship with Away. His mother expressed a desire to meet Away. Overjoyed, Xiangzi returned and told Away. Hearing that she was to meet her future mother-in-law, Away took it very seriously. She put on her favorite dress, bought a large basket of fruit, and went with Xiangzi to visit his mother in the hospital. Yinzi, hiding nearby, saw them. She could have easily found 100 other rich men, but she couldn't stand the fact that a former servant girl could be so lucky. Why should she have it so good, while Yinzi had nothing? Thus Yanzi's plan began. Qiangzi's mother was utterly delighted with Away, her beautiful, gentle, and considerate future daughter-in-law. She told her son to treat Away even better and forbade him from ever betraying her, threatening to disown him if he did. Thanks to Away's meticulous care, Qiangzi's mother gradually recovered. However, Away was quite angry with Xiang. She felt he should not have concealed his mother's illness from her. After that, Qiangzi's burden lightened as Away took over the primary responsibility of caring for his mother. After all, it was more convenient for women to be together. Qiangzi's mother preferred being cared for by her future daughter-in-law. This blissful period continued for a while. But again, it didn't last. Qiangzi's mother's condition suddenly deteriorated, requiring a huge sum for medical expenses. The meager savings Xiangzi and Away had were far from sufficient. The hospital was adamant, no money, no treatment. Just as they were at their wits' end, Yinzi suddenly appeared. She approached Xiangzi and proposed if he would leave Away and get back together with her, she would cover the 1 million in medical costs. On one side was his dying mother, on the other the love of his life. Xiangzi was plunged into extreme. One of Qiangzi's close friends, the most notorious schemer on campus, came up with an idea: pretend to break up, take the money, and then dump Yinzi. Xiangzi was usually honest and loyal. He couldn't bring himself to do such a thing. But for his mother and his lover, he decided to take the risk. He didn't tell Away the truth, fearing she might break down and ruin the plan. So he abruptly broke up with her. He returned to Yanzi's arms. Satisfied, Yinzi gave him 1 million for his mother's surgery, which was performed by her mother herself. The surgery was a success. Qiangzi's mother was saved. But when she woke, she saw not Away, but a disdain. Xiangzi explained everything to his mother. His mother had always been a strong, independent woman. She could have easily found another man if she wanted. But seeing that her son had sacrificed his love to save her, she could not accept it. As a mother and a woman, she would never allow it. Filled with self-loathing, she soon passed away in despair. Devastated, Xiangzi was then pressured by Yinzi to marry her. Helpless, he agreed. Away fell from happiness back into misery. She could no longer face the little love nest they had shared. Now she was left alone in emptiness. Her anger and resentment from the moment of her birth through being treated as a servant in college to Qiangzi's betrayal drove her to lose all reason. She thought of death. Death seemed like the only. So Away used the fruit knife she and Xiangzi had bought together to sever her own aorta. Away died, but her consciousness drifted aimlessly through the cosmos. Suddenly a voice both cold and gentle called out, "Away, wake up. I can give you every opportunity you desire. Just drink this green liquid. You will gain the power to take revenge on all of humanity. Do you accept?" Away hesitated at first. She wasn't that insane. But then the voice said, "Think about it. After you were born, your father raised you like a dog. Think about it. Your best friend treated you like a servant. Think about it. The one who betrayed love and broke his vows." Suddenly a brilliant flash lit up the sky. Crack. Away, the new queen of the Zerg. Born. The Zerg Queen Away. Away, once possessing a human soul, walked in a different direction. Through the Creator's mysterious influence, she was suddenly reincarnated into the genes of the Zerg. Thus on the planet Alpha B, in the most desolate and boundless expanse, Away appeared. As she emerged, there was not a single friend by her side to rely on. But Away was accustomed to solitude. Now she was no longer the innocent girl who would sacrifice everything for love. Her heart was filled with a desire to destroy all beauty and hope. Away stood still, gazing around waves of yellow sand accompanied by biting icy winds. They lashed against her robust body. Away possessed a pair of arms resembling those of a human, and her overall form still bore a humanoid shape. However, it was covered in the typical scales of the Zerg. The area around her original eyes was now enveloped by a crystalline snowflake-like substance. That was the Zerg's bioluminescent organ. Thus, the Zerg could attack humans and gods at night, without needing any external light source. Away flicked her wrist, and a massive overlord flew from her palm, landing on the barren desert before her. It bowed its head in supplication. "My most esteemed Queen Wyama pledges my allegiance to you. Please command me, your majesty." Away said coldly, "Wyama, am I truly your queen?" Wyama dared not be negligent. "My queen, you hold the supreme and absolute sovereignty over our Zerg. Your words are our command. Give the order, my queen. Wyama stands ready to sacrifice myself for you and the Zerg." Away replied coldly, "This place seems desolate to me, but it is quite suitable for our Zerg habitation. Wyama, I command you to produce drones to search for any food we..." Wyama immediately lowered its head and replied, "Esteemed queen, we Zerg do not survive on food. On this planet Alpha B, we rely on Type C crystal or an LC gas for our material conversion. My esteemed queen." As soon as the words were spoken, Away's expression changed. "Then why are you standing here dumbfounded? Why aren't you searching?" she roared. The shout echoed long and far across the silent desert. Wyama trembled. Yes, at once, my queen." Turning around, Wyama spat a creep tumor onto the ground. Grow quickly, my child. Our queen needs us to establish a sacred Zerg hive." In no time, the creep tumor began to spread downwards, continuously secreting streams of pungent slime. Soon the slime covered the sand. Then Wyama spat out another creep tumor. The new tumor also began secreting slime. This way, 4 creep tumors rapidly created a thick, dense carpet of creep. Wyama immediately released 4 eggs. 2 of them hatched into drones. One drone at the center of the creep began to pupate, immediately establishing a new hatchery. The other drone fluttered its wings and flew outwards. Away observed all of this, though she still didn't fully understand the reasons behind it. As long as it could fulfill her wish to severely punish her former kind, that was enough for her. After a while, the drone returned. It carried a blue-green crystal in its mandibles. It approached Wyama, chirping and squeaking a few times. Wyama then turned, "Esteemed queen, the drones have found a vein of Type C crystal. It is not far from here. Wyama requests that you move there to inspect it. The creep here will rapidly spread towards that location. Please, my queen." Away said nothing. She lifted her head and strode swiftly in that direction. The drone ahead, still holding the crystal chunk, fluttered its wings and led the way. Before long, a vast expanse of glittering mineral deposits appeared before Away's eyes. "Is this the Type C crystal, or?" Wyama quickly stepped forward. "Yes, my queen. This is the crystal vein we depend on for survival. This mining area appears to be substantial in size, enough to support your massive Zerg swarm. Furthermore, my queen, beside it, the one emitting green gas is the LC geyser, an essential resource for upgrading our Zerg technology. Then, my queen, please permit me to spawn a hatchery here." Away nodded. "Wyama, you have done well. Proceed." Wyama made a gesture. "At once, my queen." She quickly strode to a high platform. The platform was several meters above the ground with only one opening around it. After observing, Wyama turned to Away. "My queen, this is an excellent location for our primary hive. Look, your majesty, there is only one entrance here. By establishing strong defenses here, no enemy can attack our interior." Away also stepped onto the platform. She looked around. All directions were vast deserts. She brought her gaze back to the present, where the drone had already begun to pupate. Soon a new hatchery would be born. Away looked at Wyama. "What about that other hatchery, Wyama?" Wyama thought for a moment. "My queen, that hatchery can serve as our forward outpost. We can communicate and provide rapid reinforcement." Away's expression was blank. "How do we achieve rapid communication and reinforcement?" Wyama replied, "My queen, once our hive is upgraded to level 3, we can establish a Nidus network. Then it will be possible." Upon hearing this, Away laughed. "Ha ha ha, is this what you mean?" As she spoke, she raised her hand. Whoosh. A strange-looking creature landed on the creep. This creature was alive, breathing, and pulsating. Wyama immediately replied, "Great queen of the Zerg, I never expected you to possess an innate Nidus ability. My queen, just place one of your split entities at the other base. Then our tunnel will be connected." Away replied disdainfully, "What, Wyama? Do I have to handle such trivial matters myself?" Wyama dared not hesitate. "Esteemed queen, of course not, I was merely explaining it to you." The hatchery was completed, and immediately 4 wriggling larvae appeared. Away looked at the larvae on the creep and sneered. "Are these my children?" Wyama quickly explained, "Of course not, my queen. These are the children of the Zerg. They are just common Zerg." Saying this, Wyama turned all 4 larvae into drones, which began to pupate. Away asked, "Then if I were to have a child one day, Wyama, what would they look like?" Wyama's face showed difficulty. "Well, forgive my bluntness, my queen. Your child's form would depend on who you choose as the father. If you choose a human, Then the child born might resemble you greatly, but would also carry our Zerg genetic traits. However, if you choose, then I am uncertain. But no matter who you choose, even if it's a Zerg once born, the child will possess the most noble racial characteristics. My queen. After Wyama finished speaking, it sent the 4 drones to the mineral field, where they began frenziedly harvesting crystal ore. Amidst a series of chitter-chatter sounds, each drone carried a small crystal chunk back to the hatchery. Wyama then turned 2 of the newly spawned 4 larvae into drones. As soon as they were born, they headed straight for the mineral field. In no time, 8 drones filled the mining area. Wyama lowered its head to Away. My queen, you may now command the production of an army. Your first wave of troops, my queen. But before production, we must first construct a building to provide the army's genetic essence, the spawning pool. It is a pool of blood. The spawning pool was soon completed. Away lightly waved her hand at the larvae on the ground, and 4 of them began to pupate. Seeing the queen commence troop production, Wyama immediately transformed several larvae at the forward outpost into drones and an overlord. Soon about half a squad of bouncing giant zerglings were born. As soon as they were born, they hopped, and then knelt before Away, displaying a posture of submission. Away felt a surge of pleasure within. Wyama, accelerate the mineral extraction. I need more troops. Understood. Away had her very first swarm. 5 squads of upgraded giants. Additionally, there were 3 squads of hydralisks. Wyama noticed a trace of a smile finally appear on the queen's face. My queen, we can now sweep across this barren land. If we discover superior species, we can harvest their genes to provide you with an even more powerful army. Away smiled. This is good, but Wyama, when can we launch an attack against the humans? Wyama thought for a moment. My queen, I'm afraid not yet. Away's face suddenly darkened. Why? Why not? Wyama quickly replied, it is like this, my queen. Within approximately 2,000 cosmic kilometers from us, there is another Zerg swarm. I have sensed their presence. They are under the control of a mutated human scholar named Ackerman. If you wish to defeat humanity, unifying the Zerg race is the first step. Our queen. Away replied upon hearing this. You mean I must first defeat Ackerman? Or kill him? Wyama said, yes, my queen. We can take this slowly. First, we can head to an abandoned human factory in this desert. There I sense a leader of the human mutants. He commands a large army of mutants. We can make full use of this. Away replied, will he be willing to submit to me? Wyama said, I believe with your wisdom, you can persuade this leader to kneel at your feet and obey your commands. My queen. Away nodded. Then let us go. Let's go see this mutant leader. After walking for a while, a vast industrial complex appeared before Away. At its center stood an abandoned human construction factory, which once might have produced parts for human mechanized troops. But now it was utterly transformed. Away turned to Wyama. Is this the place? Is the mutant king you? Wyama replied, yes, my queen. They are right here. Just look at this decayed scene. You can imagine their former glory. Away glanced around. How do we summon them? Must I send troops to force them out? Wyama pondered. I shall dispatch a worker drone immediately to bring him out. Away's eyes flickered. Hold on, Wyama. To guard against any mishap, prepare the army and surround this place. Set up ambushes around our perimeter, understand? Wyama chuckled. Your esteemed majesty, do you truly deem such a fuss necessary? They surely would not dare defy you. Away gave a cold laugh, her eyes blazing with fury and sorrow. Wyama, do you know where your folly lies? Wyama dared not speak. It is in your blind overconfidence in humans. They are the most shameless creatures in the world. They treat betrayal as a game. As Wyama tried to argue further, Away's expression suddenly darkened. Do you dare defy your queen's command? With that, Away swung an arm, seizing Wyama, and lifting her high, then roared in a voice that could shake the entire desert. Listen, you filthy, hideous fool. If you defy my orders again, I will tear you apart and feed you to my dogs. Go. Do as I command. Though reluctant, Wyama had no choice but to obey, fearing the queen's might and authority. Yes, your majesty. Wyama obeys. Saying this, she flung something outward. A spore pod appeared on the ground, followed by 5 or 6 more. Instantly, the spore pods began spreading. Wyama used her psychic link to transform half the larvae from 2 rear bases into zerglings, then spawned 100 hydralisks. This was a colossal army surging like a tide from all directions. Roughly 1,000 zerglings, 200 hydralisks. At least 100 mutalisks and 20 infestors. They blotted out the sky, barely letting sunlight through. Then Away projected her psychic voice into the base. You damned mutants. I am Away, the Zerg Tempest Queen. You must submit unconditionally to my rule, or I will raze this place to the ground. From behind the metal walls of the base came a voice. Respected Zerg Queen. I am Wilms, leader of the mutant. I am willing to submit to you. But we cannot come out to pay homage now. Please forgive our helplessness. Away asked in confusion. Why can you not come out to see me now? Must I wait 500 years? Wilms replied, no, my queen, it is not that. We fear no blades or bullets, but we dread the light. For this sunlight can destroy us all. So we can only emerge at night. Away looked at Wei-Yama. Is this true? Are they truly so afraid of sunlight? Wei-Yama nodded. Yes, my queen. The mutants cannot yet walk in sun. Otherwise they would perish very quickly unless it is a sunless day. Away nodded. Very well. I shall show them what a sunless day looks like. With that, Away gathered all her strength, her hands slowly rising from below. Above her palms, two roiling black mists began to grow. Soon they surpassed her hands and swelled rapidly. Then the two black mists spread upward into the sky. In no time, the bright sunlight vanished from the heavens. In its place, darkness enveloped the entire desert region. Away suddenly opened her mouth and let out a tremendous roar. She thrust the two enormous black spheres from her palms directly into the sky. Instantly, the two colossal black mists soared upward and collided violently in the air. Boom! Rumble! Like thunder on a clear day, in moments the sky was filled with black smoke blanketing the entire area. Then from the abandoned factory emerged a tall figure covered in bloodstains, carrying a machine gun in one hand. He approached Away and knelt on one knee. Noble and mighty queen, Wilms is willing to lead all 1 million mutants to kneel at your feet. We are ready to follow you to infect and destroy all. Please accept our plea. Away laughed heartily. Ha ha ha. Very well. I agree to take you in. Now what other force in this desert dares resist me? Wilms said, my queen. In the nearby Palra Valley, there is a Protoss military research base. Some of the mutants here are their test subjects. Away nodded. Then let us go and see. We'll sweep away this Protoss military base. What say you, Wilms? Wilms smiled. My queen, in my past life, I was commander of the 7th Fleet of the Alpha Galaxy. I am no stranger to warfare. So as you command, I have 1 million fearless death warriors. We are ready. Very well. Command your army to advance. Wilms, you are now the 1st Army Group commander. Go. I shall lead my Zerg horde on the flank. We'll give these great gods a thorough cleansing. Away made no effort to hide her arrogance. Wilms replied, yes, my queen. Then I shall set out. Wilms then emitted a sonic call toward the abandoned base. Arise, my death warrior. Take up your arms and drive those damned Protoss from our territory. Forward. At that moment, the abandoned industrial zone began to slowly seep out groups of mutants, massive grotesque ones, and the smallest first-stage mutants. They staggered toward the Protoss research base. Away looked up at the sky. Mutalisk leader. A mutalisk far larger than the others flew over. I am here. Away nodded. Is your Daluo warrior fleet ready? The mutalisk leader replied. My queen, do you refer to the infestors? Away shook her head. Infestors. What a filthy, stupid name. From now on they shall be called Daluo. The mutalisk leader immediately answered, yes. As you command, my queen. 50 Daluos are ready for deployment. They are escorted by 100 sprayers. Away shook her head. Purple is it? Then let them be called the Purple Dragon Kings. I like that name. Sounds familiar somehow. Then Away glanced at the sky. Go. Your mission is to cover the Daluos and destroy all the photon cannons and turrets around the Protoss lab. This will minimize our assault difficulty. The mutalisk leader. Yes, my queen. I shall lead the Daluos immediately. In moments, 50 enormous bat-like Daluos slowly flew over their massive bodies, blotting out the space above Away's head. Go. Destroy the mutants. At the AS-20 Protoss pharmaceutical research base military level, the Protoss were intensively developing a genetic biochemical drug to reduce the chance of humans turning into mutants after infection. However, the research had been going poorly. Of the approximately 1500 mutants captured from the abandoned base, most had already died. Most perished because the experimental highly unstable drugs caused their mutant cells to rupture en masse, triggering self-accelerating explosions, instantly blasting them into bloody pulp. Now fewer than 200 mutants remained, far too few to support the Protoss research. Thus the Protoss had planned to send a special squad today to capture more mutants from the abandoned factory. However, their innate precognitive vigilance told them that a large enemy force was rapidly approaching their base. So all Protoss prepared to defend their laboratory. They bravely prepared for battle. Before leaving, the Protoss had deployed a formidable army, including massive spacewalking battle tanks, colossi long-range bioartillery cannons, majestic dragoon legions, and fearless lightblade warriors. The lightblade warriors were the most numerous. About 1,000 had been assembled here. Each had one arm replaced with a versatile cold light blade that could easily slice through flesh or even heavy armor like human tank plating. Additionally, they had deployed over 100 photon cannons around the base. These photon cannons used cold light beams, highly effective against both ground and air targets, and were fully. Their only flaw was fragility, unable to withstand heavy artillery like human siege tanks. The Protoss base alarm echoed across the dark, peaceful desert. 100 photon cannons quickly adjusted their angles, targeting the surroundings. 300 lightblade warriors, 100 dragoons, and 4 colossi formed the Protoss infantry assault force already assembled at the canyon entrance, the base's gateway, ready to fight the invaders to the death. The first wave of attack commenced. 50 Daros divided into 3 squads of 15 each advanced from the east, south, and north, targeting the outer photon cannon clusters of the Protoss base with their acid armor-piercing cannons. Bang! Bang! The acid cannon's assault was immensely powerful. It could instantly annihilate any armor object or flesh. As for these fragile, thin-skinned photon cannons, they were no match at all. Under such relentless bombardment, the outer photon cannons were soon twisted into heaps of scrap metal. The Protoss base possessed the most formidable aerial force within the 3 realms. However, none of the 3 main Protoss fleets were stationed in this region. The first tier was the Radiant Fleet, a super invincible armada equipped with massive support and assault carriers. The second tier was the Golden Fleet, composed of 10 carriers, 20 photon battleships, and 30 cruisers. But it was stationed in the distant Mir galaxy. The third tier was the Ire Fleet, currently deployed at the base. Their overall strength was notably inferior to the former 2. Moreover, this base was merely a destroyer squadron of the Ire Fleet. It consisted of only 20 interceptors and 40 scouts. Upon spotting the lone Daro of the Zerg, the base commander Alha immediately ordered Ire Fleet launch. Eliminate those invaders. With that command, 20 scouts spread out in the air, forming a fan-shaped swallow formation. Ahead, weapon systems were mounted on both sides of the wings, and the nose was equipped with twin 30mm cannons. The wingtips were armed with 28-cell photon missiles specifically designed to engage enemy air forces, an air-to-air combat weapon. However, the super acid cannons of Away's Daro Legion had an exceptionally long range. It far exceeded the engagement range of the scouts and interceptors, forcing them to abandon the remaining photon cannon positions and rush to the outer perimeter to engage these Zerg Daros. The wingtips were armed with 28-cell photon missiles specifically designed to engage enemy air forces, an air-to-air combat weapon. However, the super acid cannons of Away's Daro, at least 20 Daros were shot down by the scout squadrons. Away, observing from the massive base, turned to Wei-Yama and said, "Dispatch the purple-clad Dragon Kings to deal with these Protoss air forces. Annihilate them on the outskirts of the base." Wei-Yama nodded. "As you command, my queen." Turning back to the purple-clad legion, he ordered, "Advance. My children, slay those mouthless Protoss monsters. The base is ours. Kill." Immediately, over 200 purple-clad warriors divided into 3 large groups, arched their bodies, and flew swiftly through the air in an undulating motion. The scout leader hailed the Protoss base, reporting to base, reporting to base. Enemy fleet sighted ahead. Vast numbers, vast numbers. Requesting reinforcements, requesting reinforcements. Away would not give her opponent a moment's respite. Pounce on them. Send them back to their graves. The purple-clad legion adopted a horseshoe formation, with the 2 leading flanks extending far out. At least 50 were deployed on the left and right flanks respectively. The central junction was reinforced with at least 100 purple-clad warriors. However, against the 20-plus scouts with their double-layered armor and energy shields, the purple-clad warriors appeared somewhat strained. The 10 additional heavy armor interceptor squadrons that arrived as reinforcements boasted not only fierce firepower, but also exceptionally hard armor. They were also equipped with external energy protection. Wei-Yama watched with growing concern. Away merely smiled coldly. "I'll show them how I bring about their doom." With these words, Away suddenly swung her arms, which instantly extended into the air. She cried out in a thunderous voice, "Go forth, my wyverns. Create an ocean of wyverns for them." No sooner had she spoken than the sky was suddenly filled with countless flocks of wyverns, of full 500 or more. These wyverns were organized into groups of 100 each. One group encircled each direction, while the other 2 groups remained hovering in place, awaiting further mutations and reinforcements. The scout commander spotted on his view screen, within less than 20 kilometers of the nearest airspace, besides the stubbornly resisting purple-clad warriors, a vast dark mass behind them. The scout commander hailed, calling base, reinforce the turrets immediately, reinforce the turrets immediately." A massive swarm of wyverns, repeat, a massive swarm of wyverns. "Brothers, we won't make it back. Fight for Ire." At that moment, the final 10 reinforcing interceptors arrived. The outnumbered Protoss Air Force was completely encircled by the surging tide of Zerg air units above the base, approximately 20 kilometers from the Protoss base's airspace. Now the Protoss base had committed its entire air force. They had no aerial units left whatsoever. But Away knew well that she still had 2 more groups of wyverns in reserve, a total of 1,000. So standing before the base screen, Away laughed heartily. "Foolish Protoss. You always thought yourselves the most noble. Today witness the power of the Zerg swarm." Then Away activated her neural link. "Wilms, it's your turn." Wilms saluted. "Yes, my queen. Leave it to me. Listen up, you base whelps, I command." The mutant legions, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th legions, launch a full-scale assault. These 5 mutant legions each possessed 25000 mutants. One of the units was a level 5 organism. This meant Wilms had mobilized about a quarter of his mutant forces. The total strength was approximately 25000. They attacked the base's outer perimeter in wave after wave, following legionary formations. As sunlight was blocked by Away's black ionic lines. These 2500 mutants truly became a tidal wave. The first assault wave consisted of at least one mutant division from each legion, roughly 500 to 800 strong. Although the Protoss electric light cannons were powerful and fast-firing, their range was relatively short, and their armor was extremely weak. The 20 newly erected photon cannons on the western flank had 2 colossi redeployed there, in a desperate attempt to seal the only ground passage. In truth, the Protoss no longer had a passage. The west was precisely the route Away had reserved for Wilm's mutant legion. As the aerial battle drew to a close, the last interceptor of the Protoss Air Fleet's cruiser squadron exploded in midair. Thick smoke mingled with raging flames, painting half the sky crimson. Wei-Yama immediately reported to Away, "My queen, I have astonishingly good news. We have annihilated the Protoss Air Fleet." "My queen," Away replied dismissively. "Wei-Yama, when will you learn to think before you speak? We didn't destroy the main Air Fleet. We only took out one of their scout squadrons. We must intensify the attack. We cannot give them any respite." Wei-Yama immediately used the neural system to command the remaining Deros. He also diverted 30 wyverns from the reserve to perform a wild genetic conversion in the air. This group of wyverns transformed into Deros, combined with the survivors from the previous wave, totaled about 100 Deros. These Deros, now operating over the Protoss base devoid of air support, unleashed a relentless bombardment. They attacked and bombed anything they saw, striving to completely sweep the base's outer perimeter clean. The battle had been raging for approximately 20 cosmic hours. The entire airspace above the base was now thick with swarms of Zerg Deros. The Deros could clearly see the over 1,000 Lightblade warriors stationed at the outermost perimeter of the temple, eager for battle. In the center were 200 dragoons. It was at this moment that Away finally made her move. Seated atop the head of a Ultralisk, she led her army. Step by step they closed in on the defending Protoss base. Just then Wilms drove up in a battered jeep. "My first wave of outer assaults yielded no results. My forces have suffered heavy casualties. The Lightblade warriors are truly exceptional. They are far too formidable. My queen, if this continues, the 15 mutant divisions I've committed will be completely wasted." Away turned to look at Wilms. "What are your mutants afraid of? As long as we capture this Protoss base, we can smoothly advance towards the human army behind it." Wilms retorted, "My queen, your race's ground forces can't just have my army charging ahead all the time, while you hide and act as the general reserve. I find this extremely unfair." Away ignored him and continued walking forward. Wilms persisted, "My queen, you must order my 5 legions to withdraw for reorganization now." Away suddenly turned, opened her gaping maw, and roared at Wilms, "Go. Throw all your mutants into the attack. Once we take this Protoss base, a vast civilian district lies beyond." On the other 3 sides, the Protoss, now without any air force, could almost see their doom approaching. Due to the lack of air support, a fresh wave of Deros began to strike the outer perimeter of the Protoss base. They targeted every Lightblade warrior. In response, the Protoss redeployed 100 dragoons to the western air defense line to counter the Deros' devastating attacks. However, the dragoons' attack speed and range were no match for the Deros. Thus, the 100 dragoons that arrived were almost entirely annihilated. The massive Zerg Air Force screening groups of Deros began to sweep and clear the surroundings. Soon, apart from the area where Wilms was attacking, the north, south, and east had all fallen. The Zerg had already reached the outer shell of the laboratory. The remaining Lightblade warriors and dragoons prepared for a final desperate battle against the Zerg. Seeing this, Wilms concentrated his forces to assault the last western defense line. The outer perimeter of the Protoss temple was breached. Under Wilms' command, large numbers of mutants poured through the areas most devastated by the Deros and the base facilities. The entire eastern side was virtually devoid of Protoss forces. At that moment, Away's neurons trembled violently. "Attack, my Zerg warriors." With these words, a powerful occupation force of 21,000 Zerglings swiftly entered the rear of location Dorencia urban area. Coordinate position Northern Desert Zone of Alpha B Star. Defending occupiers split Zerg and other mutant groups. The battle at the Divine Race base was merely a small test of skill for Away. Entering the laboratory, she saw many mutants bound to various mysterious instruments. Some were already dead, while others hovered on the brink of death. Wilms spoke, saying, "Behold, my queen, these are the so-called favored children of heaven, the sins the divine race has committed against us. Therefore we must seek vengeance." Wei-Yama interjected, "My queen, we have made another discovery. Please come this way." Away nodded. "Wilms, calm your anger for now. After all, we slaughtered over 2,000 of them this time. That should serve as vengeance for your brothers. Let's go take a look over there." So saying, she led Wilms and followed Wei-Yama toward a corner of the laboratory. Wilms ventured cautiously, "My queen, before you came to this path, was life on Earth more pleasant than here?" The mention of life on Earth instantly evoked a cascade of sorrowful memories for Away. Away waved her hand dismissively. Let us not speak of it, or my emotions will surely spiral out of control. Wilms naturally shifted the topic. Our mutants are in themselves living beings. It's just that I do not desire the life of ordinary humans. That is all. Waima turned back and said, Your Majesty, there is a massive biological experiment subject over here. I do not know what the divine race intended to use it for. However, I believe it is a most magnificent trophy. Away smiled upon hearing this and replied, What do you think it could be used for? Waima shook his head. I cannot say for sure, Your Majesty, but it is truly enormous. Moreover, its interior cavity appears to be hollow. It seems the divine race was developing a type of biochemical starship, intended for their allies, the human race, perhaps my queen. Wilms chimed in, That must be it. The elite fleet of the divine race. What we annihilated today was one of their units. Away shook her head. Oh no, Wilms. What we destroyed today was merely a branch fleet of theirs. It cannot be considered their main direct fleet. However, I sense that our aerial forces are still insufficient to sustain our battles. Today, just to eliminate one of their branch fleets, I had to deploy nearly our entire air force. Wilms replied, Yes, my queen. The Zerg Air Force now requires your further development. We should develop a batch of flying bombs to attack the air forces of the divine and human races, without incurring excessive losses to our own combat strength. Away nodded. Marshal, I quite like this proposal of yours. I envision it as a small insect akin to a moth fitted with high-explosive RHA bombs. Even the superplanetary warships of humans would fear them. Waima said, My queen, I will commence research and development on this device immediately. Shall we name it the Bat Bomb? That bears some resemblance to the human spider mind, doesn't it, my queen? Batmind sounds much better. What a wonderful name. Let it be so. What say you, my marshal? Wilms was still immersed in the joy of his recent promotion and hadn't quite heard clearly. Oh, I think whatever name my queen says is fine. Batmind or Batbomb. It certainly rolls off the tongue better than many of our other names. As they walked, they arrived at a spacious experimental area. The electronic doors had already been broken by the little dogs. The three of them strode straight in. Once inside, Away saw a massive oval-shaped biological entity positioned at the center of the area. It seemed to be as large as 2 Yamada-class battleships. All around its body drifted thin, beard-like tentacles. At the front was a rather small mouth. Flanking it were 2 very long fangs. Its eyes were shut in slits. Its entire visage resembled a clown from a circus, yet it exuded a certain charm. Wilms circled the massive biological object, whom it could easily accommodate one of my legions. Away reached out and touched it. It clearly still had sensation, shifting its body slightly. Its enormous frame rolled on the test platform, emitting a series of creaking sounds. Wilms moved to the rear of the giant creature. My queen, come quickly, I know what it uses for propulsion. Away asked, What do you think it is, Wilms? Wilms rested his chin on his hand. I cannot say for certain yet. It might be a quantum field propulsion accelerator we have never seen before. It can achieve instantaneous flight into the sky and could also serve as our base. It is capable of instantaneous faster-than-light travel and has traversal abilities. I find this absolutely wonderful. I wonder if we could use it as your command center, my queen. Away looked the giant creature up and down again. I think it is possible. We should be able to use it as a command center, flying around everywhere in it. That would be quite fun. After examining it, Away asked, How does one operate this thing? Wilms replied, It is a biological entity. Perhaps we should control it with mental power. Then he turned to Waima. Waima, can you control it? Waima shook his head and pointed subtly towards Away. Wilms understood. My queen, it appears it will only obey your commands. Away smiled upon hearing this. Is that so? Let me try. Saying this, she pressed her hand to her forehead and closed her eyes. Your name shall be Anya. This is the name I give you. You must serve me, obey me. I am Away, the Storm Empress of the Zerg. Now open your heart to me. I wish to enter. As she spoke, the great monster. Thump. A small door truly opened on its left underbelly. From within, a thick soft tissue extended downward. The soft tissue then transformed into a ladder. Away did not hesitate as she lifted her leg and stepped onto it. Halfway up, she turned to look back at the 2 standing stunned. Coming. If not, you can die here. With that, she entered the monster's belly directly. Wilms and Waima looked at each other and followed the queen inside. Once inside the monster, they found the interior was entirely hollow. Did this creature have no stomach, intestines, heart, or liver? Wilms reached out and touched the creature's inner walls. I suspect its internal organs are behind this membrane. In the center of Anya's abdomen was a very spacious hall. In the middle and along the sides were installed the levitating meditation seats used by the divine race. Away looked at them dismissively. I don't want these divine props. Replace them with what were used to a heap of flesh. Waima immediately responded, Your Majesty. I will see to it at once. As he spoke, a swarm of worker bees fluttered in their wings, buzzing. They sprayed acid onto the hovering chairs, and soon the chairs melted away. They vanished. Immediately after, these worker bees began to pupate on the spot. Quickly a Zerg-style combat command center was arranged. Wayama bowed deeply to Away. Most honorable Empress. Please ascend the Zerg throne. Bless us and your millions of descendants. Defeat the divine race, annihilate humanity, and unify the multidimensional galaxies. Long live the Empress. Wilms also bowed his head. He shouted, the entire mutant legion swears eternal loyalty to our Empress Storm, Her Majesty Away. Away seated herself on the unique Zerg throne. This throne could quickly fuse with Away's body, showing no signs of discomfort. Away looked at Wilms. Marshal, let us now discuss the matter of the Dorencia urban area, shall we? Wilms immediately reported, my queen, the Dorencia urban area is currently controlled by 3 different factions. Among them, the northernmost small district is held by Ekman's Mad Dog Legion, numbering about 10,000. The eastern side is an independent mutant legion similar to mine, numbering approximately 30,000. Away listened while constantly examining her fingers. And what of the third faction? Wilms replied, they are a group of natives. It's hard to say what race they belong to. However, I believe they possess formidable psychic abilities. Moreover, they are exceptionally fierce in battle. Away asked, Wayama, do they belong to our kind? Wayama answered, my queen, they are a branch of the Highland faction. They possess a burrowing ability and can also scatter their own larvae to launch attacks. Because they carry tall shells, they are called turtlebacks. Wilms added, my queen, their numbers are only about 5,000. If you could subdue them, we would gain another new resistance force. Away nodded. I wish to see the visuals. You can do that, can't you, Wayama? Wayama immediately replied, I will fulfill every request of my queen. I will see to it at once. Away sneered. Remember this, Wayama. If I have to remind you again, I will turn you into a filthy scorpion. Understood. Wayama immediately bowed in acknowledgement. A large screen quickly formed through pupation. Wilms explained to Away, my queen, this is the mining area in the western part of the city. Currently, all 3 factions have established their own mining bases here. The mineral resources are quite abundant. If we are to invade, we must first seize several type crystal mines. Wayama nodded, a disdainful expression on his face. I believe this can be accomplished quite easily. Our latest Mad Dog army has already organized 50,000 troops. Combined with Wilms' mutants, our rapid-fire legion, and our air force, I think we can quickly capture 3 or 4 crystal mines to serve as the power source for our base development. Away remained silent. Her gaze was distant, fixed on the large screen within Anya's belly. She stood there in a daze for a long time. Neither Wilms nor Wayama dared to disturb Away. They too fell silent, waiting patiently. After a short while, Away spoke to Wilms. This time I think you should lead the main assault. The Zerg army will advance behind you. As before, launch an aerial strike first. Completely destroy the ground defenses. Location: Dorencia City District. Wilms was ordered to lead an army of 200 mutants, including the 1st Army under General Heron No. 1, commanding a level 34 heavy mutant force consisting of 3 light assault divisions and 2 heavy level 5 brigades. With a total strength of 100 troops, these newly formed units under Wilms differed from his previous mutant forces. The vast majority originated from humans infected at the forward base. Consequently, they possessed a certain combat capability. Moreover, the equipment of the current mutant army was far superior to its predecessors. Each light assault division was equipped with 200 mutant fold tanks. These were spoils of war captured at the No. 6 mine base. Additionally, there were 104x4 light assault vehicles, 1x2 missile motorcycles, and 1x3 motorcycle combat vehicles, each numbered around 2000. Their infantry forces were also fundamentally different from before. Formerly, mutants relied primarily on crude, close-quarters combat. Facing enemies such as marine machine gunners or long-range weaponry, they were essentially cannon fodder. However, Wilms' new mutant army now consisted entirely of armed forces with long-range lethal capabilities. Thus, the main assault cluster possessed immense offensive power, roughly 34 times greater than before. Secondly, he adopted a 2-tier organizational structure, no longer a chaotic mob. Their previous engagements lacked any tactical coherence. Facing enemy forces exceeding 10,000 troops was a massacre. Furthermore, for this Zerg mutant offensive, Away's plan prioritized a surgical strike approach. This involved leveraging the striking power of the Daluo Legion to destroy the enemy's defensive systems on a large scale through outer perimeter airstrikes. Daluo was the Zerg Air Force's ultra-long-range heavy bomber, renowned as the equal of humanity's B-52, B-1B, and Tu-160. Its striking power range and long-range attack capabilities were the most formidable among the 3 races. Additionally, the Mutalisk was the Zerg's cheapest air unit, and it formed the basis of the early mutiling tactic. Units like Daluo and Infestors evolved from Mutalisks. Hence, the Mutalisk was the mainstay of the Zerg Air Force. It possessed ground-to-air capabilities. Although its attack power was weak, it could inflict area effect damage on clustered enemy forces. Simultaneously, it could use frontline Mutalisk evolution to directly replenish losses of Infestors and Daluo. Therefore, despite facing over 100 Zergling raptors under Zerg Patriarch Ekman Wilms showed no fear. He believed that under the combined assault of overlords, infestors, Daluo, and Mutalisks, Ekman's purely ground-based anti-air, incapable Zergling swarms would be nothing but targets for slaughter and annihilation. Thus, he positioned Eros 1st, 2nd, O, and 3rd Light Assault Divisions along with a heavy Level 5 brigade in the main assault position. Regarding Wilms' Level 5 heavy brigades, these were organized at the division brigade level. Level 5 mutants were massive, heavily armored, but slow and lacked ranged capabilities. These Level 5 evolvers were now equipped with 20mm rotary machine guns, transforming them from a purely melee force. Furthermore, the heavy brigades were reinforced with their newly captured infected Human Alliance fold tanks, 4-wheeled assault vehicles, 3-wheeled missile vehicles, and 3-wheeled 20mm assault vehicles. These mechanized assets granted Wilms' heavy brigades unprecedented capabilities. The attack commenced from the eastern sector. The target was the Union Building in Darija City. The 2nd Corps, led by General Mark No. 2, was ordered to launch a feint attack from the south with over 400 troops from 2 assault divisions. The northern feint involved 2 Level 3 assault brigades totaling 3,000 troops. The remaining 5,000 heavy Level 5 mutants formed 2 divisions, serving as the strategic reserve. Mark's Level 2 Corps consisted of Wilms' older traditional mutant forces, although each division had partially upgraded approximately 12 brigades, with Level 23 assault mutants. These were essentially improvements on older models, offering little change in overall combat effectiveness, at most a 20 increase in original capability. Consequently, these units were designated cannon fodder that Wilms planned to replace. In the previous battle, Wilms had just merged with a Waze Zerg. Thus, he was deeply concerned that his strength might be weakened in combat, without timely reinforcement, ultimately losing his standing before the Queen. Therefore, he harbored some resentment of being placed in the vanguard as the assault force. However, after the complete fall of Human Alliance Base No. 6, his thinking underwent a significant transformation. Firstly, Wilms gained the allegiance of new human mutants, such as the weak but long-range shoulder-mounted rocket troopers. Similar to human RPG units, this greatly enhanced his secondary assault forces. Simultaneously, his main forces were also equipped with such infantry. The addition of new infected machine gun mutants who were fast underwent minimal bodily mutation and largely retained human characteristics, also made Wilms' new legions appear much more presentable. Another factor was the new legion combat doctrine formulated by Away. Previously, Wilms organized his armies in a manner similar to humanity during the Han and Tang dynasties. Troops were merely grouped together during peacetime. During war, divisions and corps were temporarily formed as needed. Such armies lacked any real cluster attack capability, and below the division level they relied on an archaic allocation by number system lagging nearly 2,000 years behind the standardized military organization adopted by later human civilizations. Thus, it was impossible for Wilms, even with his utmost effort, to defeat a newly organized human army using a military model from 2,000 years ago, not to mention his severe equipment deficiencies at the time. Regarding the Zerg Air Force, Zerg Victor No. 1 led a mutant wing and 2 heavy assault wings totaling 500 mutants, 300 Mutalisks, and 150 heavy assault units. First, they initiated an indiscriminate bombing of the entire city district, which seemed somewhat archaic for the Zerg. This was closely tied to Away's main combat philosophy. Although Away was currently the Storm Queen of the Zerg, she highly valued Wilms' mutant human army, because deep down Away was a human soul reincarnated within the genetic body of a Zerg queen. Consequently, she couldn't shake her attachment to human genes. Therefore, the Zerg forces organization was comparatively backward, as they were currently relegated to second-line echelons hiding behind Wilms. After Wilms breached the enemy lines, they would attempt to overwhelm the enemy with traditional Zerg swarm tactics. Zerg Mark No. 2 led a 5,000-strong Zergling Raptor pack, tailing Eros 1st Corps concentrating attacks on all alien bases. Currently, this area was garrisoned by over 5,000 Turtleback family troops. Each Turtleback possessed molecular attack capabilities, meaning although there were only slightly over 5,000 Turtlebacks, each could generate approximately 1220 small molecular attack units. Calculating this way, the Turtlebacks effectively had an army of 6,000. Furthermore, the molecular units consumed no supply resources and automatically disappeared after a battle concluded. Such advantageous conditions combined with their geographical location. The city position occupied by the Turtlebacks was precisely the highest point in the city. Here they were backed against the Shelter Mountain range. The so-called Shelter Mountains directly abutted the edge of the regional barrier, making a rear encirclement impossible. The Turtlebacks had perfectly blockaded the few mountain passes, with nearly 500 Turtlebacks stationed at each. This meant roughly over 300 molecular units per pass. These molecules possessed considerable attack power and could be continuously generated from the Turtlebacks' bodies. This ensured combat sustainability. Additionally, Zerg Mark No. 5 led 200 Hydralisks tailing Wilm's second corps into the southern region. Once inside, they immediately formed 100 evolved lurkers to occupy the northern area and coordinate with the central assault group to encircle and annihilate the defenders of the Union building besieging it. This clearly showed that Away now treated the Zerg forces merely as her auxiliary troops or assault defense units. After Wilms breached the gap, the Zerg Hydralisks would rapidly evolve and implement underground attacks. Under this dominant strategic thinking, Wei-Yama had to comply, although she had certain reservations about the Queen's strategy. However, the greatest advantage of the Zerg over humanity was unconditional obedience. They could harbor different thoughts and ideas, but absolutely no divergent actions. Therefore, entrusting the captured positions to Zerg legions for defense was far more reliable than leaving them to Wilms, who still retained human thought genes. Wilms' greatest strength lay in leveraging his remaining human intelligence genes for flexible assaults. In this regard, he far surpassed the Zerg's rigid mechanical execution. Thus, Away's strategic calculus held some validity. As for Ekman the Zerg, who only knew blind frenzied aggression, Away's current offensive marked the beginning of her decisive battle with the Zerg. Before initiating these plans, Away first secretly contacted the local primitive Zerg forces, Suhas Legion, through her consciousness. Away believed Suhas should be under her command. That would bring 2000 splitters into the Zerg Legion. Of course, Suhas had her own agenda, demanding Away promise her the treatment of a regional executive. Away thought for a moment, agreed, as long as you pledge allegiance to my faction. Then you shall be a new secondary brood mother commander, equal in rank to Wei-Yama. Suhas contacted Away through consciousness and asked, if we were to surrender to you, could I become a secondary brood mother? Away nodded. I keep my word, for I am the Storm Queen. Suhas replied, Miss Away, though you say so, but... Away sneered, but you want a guarantee, don't you? A sly smile flickered across Suhas' face. Yes. Away said, Wei-Yama, bring the brood mother gene potion. Wei-Yama promptly answered, as you command, my queen. Away continued, Suhas, I will give you half. Even if you drink it, you can only transform halfway. The other half, you'll get it after you take this place. Suhas laughed heartily. Haha, Miss Away, now this is what I call a cooperative model. Away said coldly, what did you just call me? Suhas immediately realized her mistake, her small round eyes darting. Oh, my apologies, my esteemed queen. Your Majesty, I will secretly cede block 11141-200 in the north tomorrow. Also, my queen, I intend to have my soldiers adopt the coloration of your troops. I humbly seek your Majesty's approval for this matter. Away replied, not for now, lest we alert the enemy. As Suhas tried to explain further, Away terminated the link. Wilms. Wilms immediately responded, my queen. Away sneered, what do you make of this, Suhas? Wilms answered, I find her far too arrogant and conceited. Such individuals are often incapable of achieving victory. Away turned to Wei-Yama, and you noble brood mother Wei-Yama. Wei-Yama appeared flattered, my thoughts align. Away leaned back against the throne. Wilms, I authorize you to decide Suhas' fate after the war concludes. Wilms replied, my queen, I fully respect your command. However, I implore you to consider that our legion's size is steadily expanding and we require more commanders. I hope you will ponder this. Nonetheless, Wilms shall act according to your decrees. Away sneered, her expression utterly devoid of warmth. Wilms, do you know why I favor someone like you? Wilms hesitated. This. Perhaps it is my loyalty to you. Away threw her head back and laughed. Ha, Wilms, it is because you are intelligent. You know how to converse and interact with the Storm Queen. A clever person never errs, and I expect the same from you. Wilms immediately responded. Yes, I shall always heed your Majesty's teachings. I will never forget. Now, my queen, with my first army's 2 assault divisions and 2 heavy legions, the northern region will become an instant graveyard. Wei-Yama quickly added, my queen, the swarm's air fleet requires another forward assault. This is essential to avoid friendly fire effectively. My queen. Away replied slowly, I certainly hope so. Wilms, regarding the other item, I need, do you know its whereabouts? Wilms' expression turned grim. My queen, that item is now in ASU City, which is under the Protoss control. Their Interstellar Fleet headquarters is located there. My queen. Away laughed contemptuously. What are you afraid, my marshal? Wilms let out a cold laugh. Wilms swears eternal loyalty to the queen and will never retreat. However, our air power and the swarm's combat doctrines require significant improvements, my queen. Wei-Yama interjected. What's this, marshal? Do you have so little faith in our swarm? Wilms turned to face Wei-Yama. Broodmother Wei-Yama, I am a soldier. Wei-Yama sneered. Imachim, I know you are a mutant soldier. So what of it? Wilms suddenly roared at Wei-Yama. I do not want my legions to keep pitting their flesh and blood against the enemy's modernized air force in every single battle. You need to overhaul your forces, broodmother Wei-Yama. Enraged Wei-Yama shouted back. How dare you? You lowly mutant. At this, Away's expression suddenly shifted. Away herself was a human soul implanted into the body of a swarm queen. It was akin to possession and rebirth. So when Wyama uttered lowly mutant, Away was utterly infuriated. Silence, Wyama. How dare you defy my authority and dignity? Hearing this, Wyama immediately knelt on one knee. My revered queen, please forgive my ignorance. I forgot that you are the implanter. Away's temper subsided slightly. Wyama, I know of your loyalty and your nature to uphold the swarm's honor. But from a military standpoint, I believe Wilms is right. If we cannot obtain that device, even if we conquer the entire planet Alpha B, we cannot rule it. Have you forgotten how I came to be? Before I arrived, how fragile, insignificant, and even ignorant was I. And now I am the Storm Queen commanding a 1,000,000-strong army. Ha ha ha. As she spoke, Away stood up facing forward and spread her arms wide. Nearly all the generals, swarm overlords, and broodmothers present, upon seeing the queen's elation, knelt down chanting, Hail the Storm Queen! Hail, Storm Queen! Away lowered her arms. That is why I am in most urgent need of that machine. With it, dealing with someone like Suhas would be far easier. Furthermore, we can utilize the tactical genes of intelligent humans from Earth to perfect my forces. Wilms replied, My queen, I believe that if we can improve the swarm's air fleet organization and modernize the ground forces, then in coordination with my mutant legion, taking ASU City wouldn't be impossible, my queen. Away turned to Wyama. What say you, broodmother Wyama? Wyama blinked her small eyes. I believe I can modify them, my queen. I can organize them into divisions and legions to coordinate with Wilms' assault. Moreover, our genetic bombs are ready. Away pondered for a moment. So now the question is, do we take this Dorinthia first, or turn our forces towards ASU City? Wilms answered, Your Majesty, I believe our current strength is insufficient to face the Protoss main legions. The Air fleet possesses 2,000 Protoss capital ships, while our air force is currently too disorganized. Even striking a region like Dorinthia is a stretch, let alone ASU City. Wyama remained silent, head bowed. Away looked at her. Wyama, what do you have to say? My queen, our current air power is indeed insufficient to confront the Protoss fleet. Therefore, I propose that after this campaign, we begin a massive expansion of our air force. The Vespine geysers here are ample to support the construction of a super hybrid fleet. Away nodded, then Wilms. Can your plan commence now? Wilms affirmed, My army and I await your command, my queen. Away rose from her throne. Very well. Wilms, lead your army. Annihilate all resistance within this city. Wilms accepted the order and departed, preparing to launch a full-scale assault on the eastern and northern sectors of Dorinthia, according to standard time. Wyama also rose and took her leave from Away. My queen, I must command the air force to wipe out all defensive bases here. I take my leave. In the evening, a ruddy setting sun hung on the edge of the planet. Wyama began issuing orders at the swarm airbase. My children, now flap your wings. Use your acid and venom to pierce your foe's armor and rend their flesh. Remember, beneath the swarm's feet shall forever lie the shredded flesh and blood of warriors and resistors. Go. With that command, the swarm air force commenced its attack. The first assault group of the swarm air force consisted of approximately 500 spitters, 1,000 Deluo, and 1,500 mutalisks. From the northeast of Dorinthia, they launched a 24-hour round-the-clock indiscriminate bombardment against the city's garrison forces and alien civilians. Every shelter, buildings, houses, and ground fortifications was razed to the ground. The Deluo quickly settled into their roles, utilizing their extreme long-range capabilities. Their corrosive solution cannons, boasting a full attack power of 28, continuously spewed forth from the Deluo's maws upon the enemy. In the northern region, roughly 10 blocks, Suhas had already withdrawn all 2,000 stationed turtle bears to a corner in the east. Consequently, when Wilms' first army arrived, they were met with nothing but empty positions. The first army commander reported to Wilms, Commander, our forces have occupied the northern war zone of I have ordered the 2nd Assault Division to strike towards the central region. The 2nd and 3rd Legions are converging to eliminate the 200 mad dogs before us. Wilms replied, Excellent. However, before you engage, I must still consult the Queen. After all, Her Majesty is the Storm Queen of the Swarm, and we are about to slaughter 100 of the Swarm's own creatures. We need confirmation. Soon Away received a consciousness link from Wilms. My queen, I have encircled over 100 of Swarm Ancestor Ekman's mad dogs in the east-central region of Dorinthia. I request your order to commence the assault. I will slaughter these mad dogs to the last. Away responded, Very well, Wilms. Spare no one regardless of them being swarm forces. Kill them all without mercy. Wilms then issued the order. The 1st Legion deployed in a fan formation with each regimental-sized mutant combat unit comprising 3,000 soldiers. They launched the assault. The Mad Dogs were already leaderless, for Ekman had not even thought of them. The Mad Dogs charged at Wilms' army in a near-suicidal frenzy. The upgraded mutants raised their weapons and unleashed a torrent of fire upon the oncoming Mad Dogs. Machine gun fire spat out in blue streaks. Rows upon rows of Mad Dogs fell under the mutants' onslaught. A massacre. A slaughter. Wilms received Avis' command authorizing him to annihilate the subordinates of the Aikman bug ancestor. Over 300 upgraded Mad Dogs lacking both a commander and unit diversity were without heavy equipment or air support. Wei Yama's 200 Zerg air units blanketed the sky, sweeping across the heavens. The Daluos flapped their enormous wings, drifting slowly through the sky. Wherever they passed, only ruins and rubble remained. They were equipped with heavy acid cannons. A single shot could pierce the armor of a 3,085 heavy siege tank. A heavy tank could withstand at most 5 hits. As for the already precarious buildings on the ground, the Daluos possessed an unprecedented, unmatched lethality. The pitiful Mad Dogs deployed here by Aikman inherently lacked any anti-air capability. Moreover, although boosted by hormones, their constitution was too frail. A single Daluo shell would basically eliminate one. As Wei Yama's air squadron finished its sweep, Wilms immediately ordered Ordermark and Victor to deploy in full force. I want this place to become a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. No sooner had his command been issued than the 1st Assault Division of the Mutant First Army tasked with the main assault. Mark I was in command. He spread 5 infantry regiments and 2 mechanized regiments into a fan formation, charging directly at the Mad Dogs who had lost their cover. Of course, although the Mad Dogs lacked unified command, their collective combat power was still formidable. The Mad Dogs charged at the advancing mutant army, splitting into groups of 2 or 3 or 3 or 4, encircling the mutants and beginning to tear into them ferociously. Teams of Mad Dogs howled wildly, pouncing from all directions. Yet witnessing this scene, Wilms felt no alarm. After the Daluos sweep, the remaining Mad Dogs numbered less than 2/3 of their previous force, roughly under 200. Such a paltry number of mere Mad Dogs. Wilms' 1st Assault Division soon stormed into the northern district of Dorencia City. The mutants searched every ruin for the remaining Mad Dogs. Wilms glanced at his watch. No, this search is too slow. Request Wei Yama dispatch her overlords to illuminate everything here. Expose those remaining dog packs. Simultaneously, Suas 500 Tortoisebacks began their assault from behind the northern city district. The Tortoisebacks' attack mode was highly unique. They would slowly crawl to a certain range from their target, then quickly burrow into the earth. Immediately following this, swarms of small attack units would erupt from the ground. These small units would then attack the Mad Dogs individually, swiftly securing the remaining northern area. They then linked up with Wilms' 1st Assault Division. Wilms immediately connected to headquarters via psychic link. My queen, this is Wilms. Good news. The northern city district has been captured. All 3500 Mad Dogs have been eliminated by my forces. I am now handing over the position to Wei Yama, preparing to attack the native army in the east. Avi replied, well done, my marshal. Your troops have displayed extraordinary combat prowess. I am pleased. However, in the eastern region, I hope you will spare as many of those natives as possible. Wilms did not grasp Avis' intent. My queen, those filthy natives are worse than these Mad Dogs. I had planned to keep some Mad Dogs for you to replenish the army. But they refused to surrender. Avi replied with a smile, Wilms. The Zerg do not surrender or know fear. They have only one creed, either die or make the enemy die. They simply do not understand surrender. As for the eastern natives, I hope their leader can become one of us. Wilms asked, puzzled, what use are these natives? Their combat quality and equipment are terrible. However, their ability to infect with green contamination is, I believe, very strong. If my army weren't mutants, it's hard to imagine any human army daring to approach them. Wilms' 2nd Corps had begun its assault on the southeastern region. The air support here was far inferior to that on the main axis of attack. Consequently, both sides soon engaged in ground combat. Compared to Wilms' mutants, the native army was indeed less capable. However, their use of green infection capabilities had already repelled 3 of Wilms' attacks. Upon receiving the battle report, Wilms' face darkened. Idiots, incompetence. What the hell is Victor II doing? Can't you handle even this rabble of natives? Victor II immediately explained, report, my marshal. The enemy possesses an infectious power of immense potency. Our mutant forces have also suffered radiation damage. Consequently, my casualties are also extremely heavy. Therefore, I recommend deploying the Air Force again. Wilms barked viciously, don't you understand? The Queen forbids annihilating these natives. She needs as many of them alive as possible. Pausing for a moment, Wilms continued his order. Victor II, command your armored units to advance. Put the armor at the forefront. Let's see how they infect my steel. Shiyak was the commander of the Dorencia. His original command post had been obliterated in the first wave of the mutant assault. He had not anticipated such a swift and overwhelming strike from the Zerg forces. Duoma, standing beside Shiyak, said, Chieftain, I fear we cannot withstand such a powerful Zerg army. Perhaps to preserve our strength, should we withdraw from here for now and wait for an opportunity to counterattack? Shiyak shook his head. No, never. This is the land we have always lived on. The Zerg could coexist peacefully with us. But now they are attacking me. As he spoke, there were loud explosions. A native soldier bearing multiple wounds ran in, report chieftain. The Zerg mutant army's armored forces have broken through. Our infectious fluid has no effect on their steel. The eastern and western sections of our defensive line have been... Shiyak asked Duoma, where are Donka and Sulan's battalions? Order them to reinforce the eastern line immediately. Duoma replied promptly, Chieftain Donk's battalion was almost completely wiped out in the recent Zerg air raid. His remaining forces have withdrawn to fortified areas 303 and 306. They are reorganizing and setting up defenses, but the effect is minimal. It will be difficult to hold off the encirclement by the 4 divisions of the Zerg Second Corps. Then Duoma pointed to the map. This is also the junction of the northeast sectors. Sulan's battalion is currently putting up a desperate fight. They are facing the powerful Zerg ground armored forces primarily from Wilm's First Corps. The situation is also very grim. Shiyak slammed his hands on the table. The humans hiding in the west. Why aren't they sending reinforcements? Didn't we agree with them? Duoma replied with a worried expression. Chieftain, according to our intelligence, the human forces in the west have already begun to retreat. Furthermore, the Zerg mutant Third Corps has bypassed our front lines from the flank, leading 150 Spitters towards the western gap to attack. Duoma looked at Shiyak. Clearly the battalions of Tony and Hassan will soon be encircled. This now seems irreversible. Shiyak shouted. Then where is the bug ancestor Aikman? Where are the independent tortoisebacks? Duoma shook his head. Suhas has already surrendered to the Zerg, which is why the north fell so easily. Wilm's 2nd and 3rd Corps initiated an encirclement tactic against the native army on the eastern front, soon led by roughly 1,000 folding tanks. The 10th Assault Division of Wilm's 2nd Corps had captured the eastern junction, encircling Sulan's battalion. Through his binoculars, Sualuin witnessed it all. Order. Hold the junction at all costs. Deploy the 3rd Reserve Company. We must hold. At the junction, the 3rd Reserve Company. About 2,000 native soldiers emerged from the eastern bunker area, advancing rapidly towards the junction positions. However, Zerg overlords were monitoring the skies all around. Consequently, the news quickly reached Wei Yama. At the frontline Zerg base, she shouted at the large screen, deploy the 2nd Air Strike Group. Absolutely prevent them from reaching their reinforcement point. Soon the 2nd group, composed of 500 Daluos and 500 Mutalisks, took off from the frontline base. As soon as they were airborne, they began a massive frenzied bombing campaign against the native army's positions. The native army was not like the Mad Dogs. They were not entirely without anti-air capabilities. Among the native forces was a particularly exceptional rocket force unit, soldiers carrying rocket launchers capable of engaging low to medium altitude aerial targets. Therefore, Avi also greatly valued this unit. Although the native rocket troops were not overwhelmingly powerful, they were currently the best anti-air measure available. Thus, Sualuin deployed his last reserve of anti-air rocket troops, determined to hold the line. However, the Daluo's range far exceeded that of the native rocket troops. Consequently, against the mighty Zerg Daluo bombers, the native rocket troops appeared utterly insignificant and fragile, akin to pitting a Terran Marine's rifle against a Daluo. Row after row of rocket troops fired into the sky. Whoosh, whoosh, boom. Hundreds of rockets streaked into the clouds. Some Daluos were hit repeatedly, exploding in midair into a mess of gore. Others, heavily wounded, turned back. Then Wilm's 1st Corps folding tanks arrived. The rocket troops quickly turned and fired upon the tanks. Wilm's tank units charging in the first wave were unprepared for such an attack. Over 200 folding tanks erupted in flames and exploded instantly. Hearing this news, Wilms was shocked. Having just dealt with the natives' green infection units, now a rocket force able to strike the heavens above and tanks on the ground. This left Wilms in a difficult predicament.